So in today's video we are gonna see, what if Deku was sent to the MCU? Part 1. Before starting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are interested in MHA fanfictions. This story is What If Deku Was Sent to the MCU by Sylvie 2517. Now without wasting any more time, let's dive in. Scene 1. Rooftops of Musudafu, early dusk. The city hums with energy as Midoriya Izuku dashes across a rooftop, each step crackling faintly with the power of One for All. He moves quickly, breath clouding in the evening air, fully suited in his polished hero costume. Patrol complete. Nothing suspicious on the east block, he thinks, glancing at his communicator. Then, without warning, the sky splits open. A vertical pillar of golden blue energy erupts above him, tearing reality with a thunderclap. The light pulses, warping the air like rising heat. Midoriya skids to a halt, eyes widening. That's not a warp gate. That's something else. Before he can move, the beam expands and engulfs him. His body lifts off the ground, weightless. He tries to activate One for All to anchor himself, slamming power into his legs. Too late. His fingers barely graze the rooftop before he's yanked upward and disappears in a flash of light. Round pushpin Scene 2. Forest, MCU Earth, seconds before Thor vs. Tony. Crack. Thunder rolls through a forest clearing as Thor lands in a flash of lightning, armor gleaming. He strides toward Loki, who waits in custody with his usual smug expression. Thor grips Mjolnir tightly. You have no idea what you're dealing with. A burst of repulsor energy signals the arrival of Tony Stark, descending in his Mark 6 armor. He lands across from Thor. You sound like you're about to bust out a monologue, Tony quips, repulsors warming. Tension builds. Lightning crackles. Weapons are primed. Then, boom. A second shockwave tears through the clearing, louder, sharper. Leaves scatter as the air trembles. Something crashes into the dirt behind them, shaking the ground. Thor and Tony whirl around, weapons ready. Smoke clears. A teenage boy kneels in a shallow crater. His green hero costume is intact. He lifts his head slowly, emerald eyes focused, breathing steady. His fists are clenched, his stance defensive but composed. Round pushpin Deku's thoughts. That light, that wasn't a quirk. These trees, this air. This isn't my world. He scans his surroundings. Two figures. One in heavy red and gold armor, hovering with energy. The other, taller, wielding a hammer buzzing with electricity. They're watching him, wary, ready for a fight. Deku raises his hand slightly. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I don't know where I am, but I didn't come here by choice. Thor steps forward, cautious. Another falls from the sky. But you are no ally of Loki, are you? Tony eyes him suspiciously, armor humming. Really? Because everyone dropping out of portals today seems to be wearing some kind of outfit. What are you? Kid, Robin Hood meets Tron. Deku stays calm, tracking their posture and distance. My name is Midoriya Izuku. I was pulled here against my will. I just want to understand what's happening. He doesn't mention One for All. Not yet. Not until he knows more. Thor studies him for a moment, then lowers Mjolnir slightly. He speaks truth. I sense no malice. Tony doesn't lower his repulsors, but his tone softens. All right, fine. But you're coming with us, cosplay detective. Fury's gonna love this. Deku nods cautiously, posture relaxed but alert. These two could level the forest if things go wrong. Then, leaves rustle. A third figure enters the clearing, calm and steady, a shield strapped to his arm. Steve Rogers eyes the crater, then the boy standing between Thor and Iron Man. And who's the new guy? Deku instinctively straightens. There's something grounded about this man. Not flashy like All Might, but centered. Steady. My name is Midoriya Izuku, he says respectfully. I'm not from around here. Steve's brow rises slightly, but he keeps his voice even. That much I gathered. He looks at the others. Anyone want to tell me why a teenager in armor just dropped from the sky? Tony raises a hand. Not it. Thor responds. He came through a rift, not of my making. Steve turns back to Deku, assessing him. You hurt? Deku shakes his head. No, just a little lost. Steve nods. All right, then let's figure this out together. Location. Shield. Helicarrier. Mobile HQ, high altitude. The hum of engines and low murmur of personnel fades into the background as Midoriya sits at the far end of a sleek conference table, fingers laced together, back straight. Despite everything, the jet ride, the hovering warship, the strange uniforms, he hasn't lost focus. Across the table, Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, and Natasha Romanoff quietly observe him. Thor stands behind them, arms folded, silent but watchful. Fury hasn't entered yet. Deku's mind is racing. Okay, process. I got pulled through a rift, some kind of dimensional tear. Ended up in a forest on this Earth. Thor said it wasn't his doing. Stark's tech is advanced, maybe multiversal. But none of them recognized me, so I'm definitely not in my world. Need to stay calm, get answers, and if needed, a way back. Tony breaks the silence first, tapping the table. Well, at least he doesn't have antennae or start glowing when he talks. So, kid, you from space, or are you just bad at geography? Deku blinks. Japan. Or, my version of it. Natasha leans forward, expression neutral. And in your version of Japan, people can punch through walls and run faster than cars. Deku hesitates, then nods. Yes, most people have abilities, quirks. I'm training to be a pro hero. Thor speaks next, intrigued. Quirks. You mean powers passed through bloodlines? Sometimes, Deku explains, but they vary. My generation, over 80% of people are born with one. Mine enhances my strength, speed, and durability. Tony whistles. Superpowers is a social norm. Now that's a can of worms. Steve finally speaks, calm and direct. You said you're a student. A hero in training. How much combat experience do you actually have? Deku meets his eyes. I've been in life or death battles. Against villains. Coordinated with teams under pressure. I've fought to protect people, even when it scared me. There's no bravado in his tone. Just quiet certainty. Steve nods slowly. Before anyone can say more, the doors slide open with a soft hiss. Nick Fury walks in. Black trench coat, eye patch, aura like a thundercloud. He surveys the room, then fixes his one good eye on Midoriya. You fell out of a portal in front of 3 of my most powerful operatives. That's not subtle. Deku stands up instinctively, hands at his sides, respectful but steady. I didn't mean to come here. I don't know how it happened, or how to reverse it. Fury steps closer. Good, because if you did come here on purpose, we'd have a much bigger problem. A beat passes. Then Fury nods to Natasha. Start cross-referencing anomalies. Look for any energy spikes matching the portal signature. To Tony. Start scanning his suit. I want to know what kind of tech this hero school is handing out. To Thor. You felt the rift. Any celestial meddling? Thor frowns slightly. It did not feel like the Bifrost. Nor magic from Asgard. It was chaotic, unstable. As if the very threads of reality were tugged too hard. Fury turns back to Midoriya. Until we know more, you're under watch. But you're not a prisoner. You cooperate, you get some leeway. Understood. Deku nods. Understood. Tony smirks. Great. Let's just hope he doesn't go full anime and power up into a kaiju mid-flight. Deku tilts his head. What's a kaiju? Steve suppresses a smile. Natasha sighs. Round pushpin later. Observation deck. The sky glows orange as sunset bleeds across the clouds. Deku stands alone at the edge of the helicarrier's massive glass panel, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the endless sky. He thinks of home, of his mom, of All Might. I need to get back. But until then, I'll learn, watch, help if I can. A soft step behind him, Steve Rogers. I've seen a lot of kids thrown into war zones before they're ready, Steve says quietly. But you've got something else. Strategy. Restraint. Even in the crater. Deku turns. Back home, we're trained to protect first. Not escalate. Steve nods. Good instincts. That'll help. You're not the first person from another world to land here. Won't be the last. But if you want my advice. Yes, sir. Don't wait for permission to be useful. You're here now. Start acting like it. Shield. Helicarrier. Laboratory deck. The lab buzzed with controlled chaos. Transparent monitors flickered with streams of data in soft blue hues. Robotic arms hummed overhead, calibrating instruments with mechanical precision. In one corner, Bruce Banner leaned over a shimmering holographic waveform. Across the room, Tony Stark swiveled lazily in his chair, flicking through energy readouts like they were stock tickers. Between them stood Izuku Midoriya, still in his hero costume. His posture was tense, yet composed. He stayed locked on the holograms before him, analyzing, absorbing, calculating. He was far from home, but his mind hadn't stopped racing since he arrived. Bruce, gesturing to the display. So you're saying this quirk of yours, one for all, builds power over generations? Izuku: yes, it's passed from person to person. Each user adds their strength to it, and I inherited it all at once. It's not like other quirks, it's a legacy. Tony raised an eyebrow from behind his tablet. Tony: so basically, a living battery made out of human willpower. Wild. Izuku, nodding. That's actually not a bad way to describe it. Bruce tapped a few keys. A three-dimensional projection appeared, radiating outward in jagged bursts of golden blue energy. Bruce: this was recorded at the moment you arrived. Massive spike in atmospheric ionization, localized particle displacement, and this. He zoomed in on the central axis of the burst. A beam, straight, vertical, shimmering with residual energy. Izuku, quietly: that looks like the energy that pulled me in. Tony: definitely not one of ours. And it's too clean to be something Loki whipped up. No chaos signature. Too precise. Izuku looked down at his hands, remembering. Izuku: I was fighting a villain. He tried released a gas that would erase heroes' quirks. I pushed past my limits to counter his power, to save everyone. I thought I'd overloaded my quirk. Bruce: and then, Izuku, after a while when the fight ended I got treated for my injuries and got a fixed costume. There was a sound, a hum that turned into thunder. Then light. I thought I triggered something in my body, but it wasn't me. Tony flicked his wrist, switching the display. A different readout appeared, this one laced with Asgardian signatures. Tony: here's where it gets interesting. That light you saw matches the energy we pick up when the Bifrost opens. Izuku: the what? Bruce, gently. The Bifrost. It's a kind of teleportation bridge used by Thor's people, connects realms across space. It's not magic, exactly, more like cosmic tunneling. Tony: think, supercharged rainbow laser, but with a GPS from space. Izuku: so, I didn't tear open a hole in reality. I got caught in one. Bruce, nodding slowly. That's what it looks like. Your quirk, at max output, must have emitted a signal that mimicked the Bifrost's targeting frequency. Tony: and the kicker, you flared right when Thor was inbound. Guess whose location got tagged instead? Izuku's face paled slightly as he processed it. Izuku: so when Thor was coming to Earth, I got pulled in instead. Bruce: not summoned, yanked, like your quirk became a beacon the Bifrost couldn't ignore. Tony, half grinning: kid, you didn't just break physics, you hijacked Asgard's phone line. Izuku looked down. Izuku: I didn't mean to. Bruce: we know. That's what makes it more dangerous. Tony pulled up a new schematic, the Tesseract's containment unit. Tony: last thing we need is unstable dimensional energy floating around while Loki's busy playing with cosmic cubes. Izuku took a deep breath. Izuku: if I triggered the Bifrost once, could it happen again? Bruce: that's what we're trying to figure out. If your quirk spikes under stress, it's possible. But we need more data. Tony tossed a palm-sized disk his way. Tony: scanner. It'll monitor your energy output in real time. Wear it, power up when you're ready, and try not to vaporize the helicarrier. Izuku caught it, nodding with calm precision. Izuku: understood. Tony: you're taking this surprisingly well. Izuku, small smile: I've had worse days. This one's just really complicated. Round pushpin observation room, overlooking the lab. Behind tinted glass, Nick Fury stood with arms folded. Beside him, Maria Hill scanned the data feed, eyes sharp. Hill: he's young, but smart. Scans clean. No signs of possession, no tech implants. Fury stayed silent. Hill: you don't trust him. Fury: he fell out of the sky after a lightning storm, dressed like a comic book, with a power we can't detect, and might punch a hole through the multiverse. A beat. Fury: I don't trust anyone who lands in a crater and says it was an accident. Hill eyebrow raised. But, Fury stared through the glass, watching Izuku jot in his notebook. Fury. But he hasn't lied yet. That's more than I can say for most people in this room. Round pushpin lab, far corner. As the scientists returned to their terminals, Izuku stepped away, opening a battle-worn notebook, its pages filled with diagrams, combat notes, and quirk theory. He started a new entry. Dimensional displacement, energy patterns and potential triggers. He underlined the title, then scribbled beneath it, "If I got here by accident, can I get home on purpose?" Soft hums filled the sterile room. Scanners passed over Izuku's body, monitoring muscle density, nerve response, and metabolic activity. His biology had begun adapting to this new universe. Tony Stark leaned against the wall, arms folded. "Tony, all right, kid, you've got a power passed down like a family heirloom. Tell me more. What exactly is One for All?" Izuku, sitting upright. "It's a quirk built from generations of heroes. Every user adds their power. It grows stronger each time. It gives me immense strength, speed, and durability. But too much at once, and I can break myself." Bruce entering. "Like wielding a bomb with no fuse. Fascinating." Tony. "Sounds like a live grenade with a workout plan." Izuku chuckled faintly. "Izuku, I've been working on controlling it. I can handle about 80% of its power now without injury." Bruce. "And this black whip you mentioned?" Izuku's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Izuku, it's one of the quirks from a previous user, energy tendrils that can grab, pull, restrain. One for All holds multiple quirks now, and more are awakening." Tony. "Wait, your power has layers. That's cheating." Izuku, serious. "Each new quirk is different. I'm not sure how many are still inside. But I can feel something else stirring. Something I haven't unlocked yet." Bruce. "Like a quirk evolving, a second awakening." Izuku. "I have to push harder. For my world, for All Might's legacy." Tony raised an eyebrow, half impressed. Tony. "Careful, champ. Push too hard and you might bring another lightning strike down on us." Izuku, grinning faintly. "I'll try not to. But even if I'm stranded here, I'm still a hero. I have to keep going." Bruce. "Sounds like you're not just surviving this world, you're starting to belong to it." The sterile hum of the medical bay was punctuated by quiet beeps as scanners traced every inch of Izuku's body. Data streamed across the displays, subtle growth, increasing durability. Changes his body was making to survive in this new world. Tony Stark leaned in, eyes narrowing as he absorbed the readings. Tony. "All right, kid, enough tech talk. Who's the top dog in your world? The hero everyone's talking about?" Izuku sat up slightly, gathering his thoughts. "Izuku. That would be All Might. He's the symbol of peace, the strongest hero my world has ever known." Tony smirked, then raised an eyebrow. "Tony. Sounds like a legend." Izuku's expression grew serious. "Izuku. He is, but his story isn't just about power. Years ago, he fought a villain named All for One, a terrifying man who can steal quirks and manipulate others. Their battle left All Might with devastating injuries." Bruce Banner stepped closer, interest piqued. "Bruce. What kind of injuries?" Izuku took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "Izuku. During the fight, All for One struck a powerful blow to All Might's side, leaving a gaping hole in his chest. It damaged his internal organs, his stomach and respiratory system beyond repair." Tony whistled low. "Tony. Wait, a hole in his chest. That sounds brutal." Izuku nodded solemnly. "Izuku. Because of that attack, All Might lost his stomach and one of his lungs. His respiratory system was so badly damaged he struggles to get enough oxygen." Bruce shook his head, frowning. "Bruce. That's serious. How does that affect him now?" Izuku's eyes darkened with understanding. "Izuku. The combination of those injuries caused his body to deteriorate over time. The muscular form people see, his hero form, was his original body, before the injuries. Now, his body wastes away quickly and can only maintain that form for short periods." Tony looked at the scans on the screen, then back at Izuku. "Tony. So the All Might everyone knows, that hulking powerhouse. That's who he used to be." Izuku. "Yes, Outside of that form, he's much smaller and physically weakened. The injuries force him to live with limits most heroes don't have. He can't stay in hero form long or his body starts to fail. Bruce rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Bruce. Sounds like a ticking time bomb. Powerful, but vulnerable. Izuku shook his head gently. Izuku. He's not fragile, but every transformation pushes his body closer to breaking. That's why he has to be careful. Tony crossed his arms, smirking again but with a hint of respect. Tony. So the world's greatest hero is basically a glass cannon. Izuku's voice was steady. Izuku. He's a symbol of hope, but his condition reminds everyone that even the strongest heroes have limits. The doctors returned their attention to Izuku's scans. Bruce pointed at the screen. Bruce. Your body is adjusting surprisingly well. The data shows increased bone density and muscle mass. You're getting taller, stronger, but in a controlled way. Not bulky like a bodybuilder, more like a natural progression toward durability. Tony grinned. Tony. So you're evolving to handle this place better. No more worrying about becoming the next glass cannon, huh? Izuku smiled faintly. Izuku. I hope so. There's still a lot I don't understand about these changes. Location. Shield. Helicourier. Midnight cycle. The helicourier hovered silently through stormy skies. Outside, wind clawed at its surface, but inside the corridors, the stillness was almost meditative. Izuku Midoriya couldn't sleep. Wearing a borrowed shield t-shirt and sweats, he stood barefoot on the observation deck. The glass beneath his feet felt cold. He stared out at the clouds with a furrowed brow. His heart was pounding, not from fear, but anticipation. Ever since he landed in this universe, something inside him had changed. First, his body. He'd noticed it after 2 days. Denser muscles, increased stamina. Tony's tests confirmed it. This world was adapting him, cellularly rebuilding him to survive this dimension's higher energy frequencies. Steve had put it another way. Your body's doing what mine did, but naturally. You're becoming a super soldier, kid. Not just enhanced, refined. But now, something deeper stirred. He stepped closer to the window. And suddenly, he was weightless. His feet lifted from the floor with no effort. Eyes wide, Izuku floated a full meter into the air. He twisted, trying to ground himself, but there was no fear. Just wonder. He remembered something. My master's quirk. It let her float. She called it float. All Might had once whispered in his weaker form. You might inherit it one day. Now it had awakened. Round pushpin 2 days later. Tony, I know it sounds insane, but I'm telling you, it wasn't just me jumping. I was hovering. Tony raised an eyebrow. Right, so now you're Iron Man without the suit. Great. They were running a test in a lower gravity chamber while Bruce adjusted sensors. Izuku concentrated. His feet rose off the ground again. Smooth, controlled. Tony dropped his coffee. Okay, that's new. Bruce was already typing furiously. That's not tech. It's biological. Some kind of gravitational field manipulation. He's stabilizing in midair using his own force. Tony muttered, get this kid a cape. Chapter 5. Sixth Sense. Round pushpin location. Training Bay Gamma, 1 week later. It started during sparring drills. Steve threw a shield feint, fast. Deku dodged before the move was even fully committed. Again and again, he moved not just with reaction speed, but pre-reaction. Steve noticed it first. You're not guessing. You're sensing something, aren't you? Later, in the med bay, he told Banner, it feels like a pulse in my brain. Like a spiderweb twitching right before something bad happens. Bruce had seen enough to believe it wasn't metaphorical. Another quirk. A new one. Danger sense. Round pushpin that night. Midoriya's quirk realm. Darkness. Then light. Like stars. Deku stood in a blank, endless space. Figures emerged. Some hazy, some clear. 7 silhouettes. The former wielders of One for All. The second and third were too indistinct to speak. But Nana Shimura stood closest, arms folded. You're not in your world anymore, she said gently. I know, Deku whispered. But I'm still trying to help. Another voice joined in, older, tired. All Might's predecessor. You've been flung into something far beyond our foresight, young man. But the quirks awaken faster here. You're adapting. The sixth holder stepped forward. The danger of this world is different, alien. That's why danger sense has awakened. It's trying to keep you alive. Deku bowed his head. If you can sense all this, is there a way back? A heavy silence followed. Nana answered softly, perhaps. But the way forward comes first. Protect this world, like you would your own. Round pushpin current day, 2 weeks since arrival. Despite the tension aboard the helicarrier, Midoriya had grown. Stronger, quicker, sharper, not quite All Might's raw power, but refined, like a younger Captain America with a sixth sense and aerial mobility. And though the Tesseract had yet to be found, the threat was building. Loki remained in the cell, but unease buzzed in the air. The final calm before the storm. Midoriya looked to the sky and whispered, I'm ready. Int. Banner's lab. Day. Nick Fury storms in, surprised to see Tony Stark and Bruce Banner abruptly stop working on the scepter. Nick Fury. Angry. What are you doing, Mr. Stark? Tony. Kind of been wondering the same thing about you. Nick Fury. You're supposed to be locating the Tesseract. Banner. We are. The model's locked, and we're sweeping for the signature now. When we get a hit, we'll have the location within half a mile. Tony. And you'll get your cube back. No muss, no fuss. Suddenly Tony's monitor flashes a folder labeled, Phase 2 inches marked top secret. Tony. What is Phase 2? Suddenly, Steve drops a Hydra assault rifle on the table, causing Fury, Banner, and Tony to turn. Cap looks pissed. Steve. Phase 2 is S.H.I.E.L.D. using the cube to make weapons. To Tony. Sorry, the computer was moving a little slow. Nick Fury. Trying to explain. Rogers, we gathered everything related to the Tesseract. This does not mean that we're. Tony. I'm sorry, Nick. Tony slides the screen toward Fury, revealing detailed blueprints for devastating weapons. Tony. What were you lying? Steve. I was wrong, Director. The world hasn't changed a bit. Thor and Natasha walk into the lab. Natasha keeps her eyes sharply on Banner. Banner looks at her, pissed. Banner. Did you know about this? Natasha. You wanna think about removing yourself from this environment, Doctor. Banner. I was in Calcutta. I was pretty well removed. Natasha. Loki's manipulating you. Banner. And you've been doing what exactly? Natasha. You didn't come here because I bat my eyelashes at you. Banner. Yes, and I'm not leaving because suddenly you get a little twitchy. I'd like to know why S.H.I.E.L.D. is using the Tesseract to build weapons of mass destruction. Nick Fury. Because of him. Points at Thor. Thor. Stunned. Me. Nick Fury. Last year Earth had a visitor from another planet who had a grudge match that leveled a small town. We learned that not only are we not alone, but we are hopelessly, hilariously, outgunned. Thor. My people want nothing but peace with your planet. Nick Fury. But you're not the only people out there, are you? And you're not the only threat. The world's filling up with people who can't be matched, they can't be controlled. Steve. Like you controlled the cube. Thor. Your work with the Tesseract is what drew Loki to it, and his allies. It is the signal to all the realms that Earth is ready for a higher form of war. Steve. A higher form. Nick Fury. You forced our hand. We had to come up with something. Tony. Nuclear deterrent. 'Cause that always calms everything right down. Nick Fury. Remind me again how you made your fortune, Stark. Steve. I'm sure if he's still made. Wait. Hold on. How is weapons? Stark would be neck this now about me. Deep. I'm sorry, isn't Thor everything? I thought humans were more evolved than this. Nick Fury. Excuse me, did we come to your planet and blow stuff up? Thor. Did you always give your champions such mistrust? Natasha. Banner. Are you all really that naive? S.H.I.E.L.D. monitors potential threats. Tony. Steve. To Steve. I swear to God. Stark. When you're on that list. Are you more crack? Above or below angry bees? Steve. Threatening. I feel threatened. As the team argues, none notice the blue gem on Loki's scepter glowing brightly. Loki. VO. You speak of control, yet you court chaos. Banner. It's his MO, isn't it? I mean, what are we, a team? No. We're a chemical mixture that makes chaos. We're a time bomb. Nick Fury. You need to step away. Tony. Puts his arm around Steve. Why shouldn't the guy let off a little steam? Steve pushes Tony off. You know damn well why. Back off. Tony comes face to face with Cap. Oh, I'm starting to want you to make me. Steve, big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you? Tony, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist. Steve, I know guys with none of that worth 10 of you. Yeah, I've seen the footage. Steve taunted. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play, to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over. Tony, I think I would just cut the wire. Steve, smiling. Always a way out. You know, you may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero. Tony, that did it. A hero. Like you. You're a lab rat, Rogers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle. Outside the helicarrier, the ramp of the carrier opens. Barton stands at the base, holding out his bow. He pulls out a grenade-tipped arrow and points it at one of the large turbine engines. He releases. The arrow flies out, but then sharply heads for the engine. The arrow punctures the engine with a timer counting down. Int. Banner's lab. Morning. Back in the lab, Steve puffs up his chest at Tony, who stands unmoving. Steve, put on the suit, let's go a few rounds. Thor laughs at them. Thor, you people are so petty, and tiny. Tony rubs his head, moving away from Cap. Banner, yeah, this is a T. Nick Fury, Agent Romanoff, would you escort Dr. Banner back to his? Banner, where? You rented my room. Nick Fury, the cell was just in case. Banner, in case you needed to kill me, but you can't. I know, I tried. A beat. Banner's voice cracks. Banner, I got low. I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out. So I moved on. I focused on helping other people. I was good, until you dragged me back into this freak show and put everyone here at risk. Banner's eyes land on Natasha, who looks uneasy. Banner, you wanna know my secret, Agent Romanoff. You wanna know how I stay calm. Black Widow and Fury instinctively reach for their guns, but before they can, another voice speaks up. Izuku Midoriya, calm, but firm. Because sometimes, you have to face the chaos to find the courage inside yourself. Everyone turns toward the voice. Standing near a bank of monitors, Izuku Midoriya, a young hero in training, with his distinctive dark costume, thoughtful eyes, and subtle scar on his cheek, steps forward, adjusting the sleeves of his jacket. Banner, softening. Midoriya, you're still here. Izuku, I wanted to help. There's more to this than just weapons and power struggles. If we lose sight of why we're fighting, we lose ourselves. Tony, raises eyebrow. Kid's got a point. Steve, grudging respect. You're growing up fast, Izuku. Natasha exchanges a glance with Fury, who nods. Natasha, all right, let's keep moving. We're not done yet. The soft glow of monitors cast harsh shadows on tense faces. Tony Stark hovered over his holograms, fingers flying as he analyzed data from the staff's containment unit. Bruce Banner stood nearby, focused and wary. Steve Rogers was pacing, eyes sharp, while Natasha Romanoff watched the room like a hawk. And Izuku Midoriya stood quietly off to the side, absorbing every detail, every strained exchange, the growing friction between them. Suddenly, an alert flashed across the console. Tony, what the hell was that? Before anyone could answer, the room shook violently. Boom! An explosion rocked the helicarrier. The lab windows exploded inward, shards of glass raining down. The entire ship lurched as the engines shuddered. Natasha, Hawkeye, Tony. An arrow hit one of the engines. Smoke poured in from the broken windows. Sparks flew from exposed panels. Steve, everyone, move out. Secure the ship. Thor pushed past the chaos, eyes scanning for the source of the attack. Midoriya moved quickly to follow him. Midoriya, thinking, the engine's gone. The whole carrier's losing power. We need to act fast. Tony barked orders as he activated his suit. Tony, Banner, get to the engine room. We need full diagnostics on damage control. Rogers, with me to secure the control room. Thor turned to Midoriya. Thor, you come with me. We must find Hawkeye and stop this madness before the ship tears itself apart. Midoriya nodded and followed. Round pushpin corridors of the helicarrier, smoke and alarms blare. The air was thick with dust and the acrid sting of burning circuits. Thor's hammer was ready, his eyes like storm clouds. Midoriya's hands clenched, heart pounding, not with fear, but adrenaline. Midoriya. Thor, what's our priority? Thor. Find Hawkeye. Stop him from causing more damage. The helicarrier cannot hold much longer in this state. As they ran, Midoriya caught glimpses of panicked agents scrambling. A loud crash echoed ahead, doors ripped open by Hulk's furious rampage. Thor. Stay close. The Hulk's a storm no one controls. Midoriya swallowed hard but nodded. Together, they pushed deeper into the chaos, ready to face whatever came next. The battle for the helicarrier had begun. Sirens wailed. Red lights flickered. The ship groaned as if in pain. Thor and Midoriya raced through the damaged corridors, passing burst pipes, sparking wires, and collapsed walls. The air was thick with smoke and pressure, the kind of pressure that warned of something worse coming. Midoriya's danger sense sparked like a live wire in his mind. Midoriya, thinking, something's close. Not just the sabotage. A presence. No, multiple threats. Ahead, the sound of metal twisting. A scream, followed by a roar that shook the bulkheads. Thor. He is loose. The Hulk. Midoriya's boots hit the floor harder now, pushing 40%, his enhanced musculature burning like fire under his skin but holding steady. Float kicked in instinctively as the floor buckled beneath them from another impact. He glided over the broken tiles, then dropped beside Thor again. Midoriya. Do we help Banner? Thor's eyes narrowed as another boom echoed, the green behemoth smashing through steel in rage. Thor. We stop him. They reached the upper engineering deck just in time to see Hulk slam into a group of agents. Some scrambled, others raised weapons. Midoriya's heart ached. Midoriya, thinking, he's not a villain, he's hurting, out of control, like Kachan was during training. But Hulk wasn't holding back. He never did. Thor leapt into the fray, slamming Mjolnir into Hulk's side, sending him flying through a bulkhead. The ship shuddered again from the force. Midoriya didn't hesitate. He shot forward, floating through the debris, and landed in front of several stunned agents. Midoriya. Get out of here. Evacuate this deck, now. They didn't need to be told twice. Another roar, and Hulk was back, bounding over twisted metal with thunder in his eyes. Thor met him head-on, the clash of gods echoing through the ship. Midoriya, thinking, I can't go blow for blow like Thor. But I can redirect, control the space. Float gives me mobility, and I can take more than I used to. Midoriya launched upward, narrowly dodging a piece of torn bulkhead Hulk hurled at him. Floating midair, he focused, danger sense flaring just before Hulk turned on him. Midoriya, shouting, Hulk, it's me, Midoriya. Banner's still in there. You have to fight it. Hulk roared and leapt, massive hands reaching for him. Midoriya twisted midair and boosted downward with 45%. Punching the ground hard enough to create a shockwave and draw Hulk's attention away from fleeing agents. Thor took the opportunity to tackle Hulk from behind, slamming him through the floor and down a level. Thor, gritting his teeth. Keep him off the support beams. Midoriya. Got it. Round pushpin elsewhere. Upper decks, bridge. Steve, into comms, we've lost engine 3. Stark's trying to restart the turbines manually. I'm heading there now. Natasha. Loki's making his move. I'll try to stop Barton. Fury. Midoriya. Thor, we need that green rage off the ship or neutralized. Do not let him hit the core. Round pushpin engineering bay. Moments later. Midoriya floated beside a vent shaft, sweat beading on his forehead, breathing steady but heavy. Danger sense pulsed again. Too late. Hulk smashed upward through the floor, and swiped. Midoriya took the hit midair. Crash. He tore through a wall, pain blooming across his ribs, but his body held. Midoriya, gasping. Ribs are bruised, not broken. My durability's finally catching up to one for all. He gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and burst back through the smoke. Midoriya, thinking, I can't overpower him, but I can outmaneuver him. He dropped low, floated under Hulk's swing, and delivered a high-speed shoulder tackle at 45% to Hulk's side, staggering the beast just enough for Thor to bring Mjolnir down on his back. Hulk collapsed, at least for a moment. Thor, panting, you fight well, young warrior. Midoriya, breathing hard, thanks, but this isn't over. As the deck trembled again, the two looked toward the center of the ship, where the explosion had caused the carrier to lose altitude. It was falling, and they were running out of time. Smoke clung to the corridor air like a fog of burnt metal. The explosion that rocked the helicarrier left fractures in the walls and sparks crackling from broken fixtures. Emergency red lighting pulsed like a warning heartbeat. Thor and Midoriya rushed down the corridor, the sounds of gunfire and alarms echoing behind them. Midoriya, thinking, "We're losing altitude. Engine failures, and Loki's still on the loose." That cell, his danger sense flared, a jolt of instinct warning him before he could process. "Midoriya. He's close." They reached the containment level. Through the observation glass, Loki stood calmly inside the cell designed for the Hulk, smirking. Thor didn't hesitate. "Thor, you betray even your own blood." He charged, cape billowing, Mjolnir drawn back in a powerful arc. But Loki flickered. The illusion shattered. "Midoriya." "No." Too late. A shimmer of green magic snapped. Loki appeared outside the cell, activating the release protocol on the control panel. The door slammed shut behind Thor. "Loki." Sentiment. He hit the final override. Whoosh. The containment cell dropped like a missile from the helicarrier, Thor pounding on the glass walls as the sky tore past. Midoriya, shouting, "Thor." He launched forward, Black Whip trailing him like comet tails, grabbing at the cell, but it was already gone, plummeting thousands of feet. Loki turned to find Midoriya floating between him and the exit, arms tense, green eyes burning with focus. "Midoriya. You just made a mistake." Loki smirked. "Oh, you're next." Round pushpin elsewhere, upper-level corridor. Agent Coulson, holding the experimental Phase 2 weapon, stepped through the doorway and found Loki alone. Or so he thought. Coulson aiming. "Even you might not walk away from this one." Loki smiled, then stabbed him through the back. Midoriya arrived in a blink, danger sense screaming. "Coulson." Loki pulled the blade free and vanished in a shimmer of green. Midoriya caught Coulson before he could collapse, floating them both down. Blood poured from a deep wound through his jacket. Coulson, pained, fading. "Guess this means I clock out early." Midoriya. "No, no, stay with me, I've seen worse survive. You're not dying here." Black Whip coiled gently under Coulson to support his spine as Midoriya stabilized him. Coulson, weakly, "You're new." Midoriya. "Midoriya Izuku. I'll explain everything. But first, breathe." He ripped part of his shirt and pressed it to the wound, then shouted into the comm on Coulson's wrist. Midoriya, into radio. "Coulson's alive. Wounded, but breathing. I need a medical unit, now." From the other end, Hill over comm. "Medical is en route. Hold position." Midoriya glanced back out the cracked window. Thor was gone. Loki had vanished again, and the world just kept falling apart. The hum of emergency lights cast everything in sterile red. Medical teams had wheeled Coulson away minutes ago, barely breathing but alive. That, at least, was something. Midoriya leaned against the wall outside the bridge, costume singed, chest still heaving from the chaos. Inside, Steve Rogers and Tony Stark stood in silence, the weight of failure sinking in. He stepped in slowly. Fury was already there, his posture stiff, one hand resting on the railing as he stared out at the wrecked monitors and cracked screens. No one spoke until Fury did. He made it personal, the director said, voice low. Tony paced, brows furrowed. "Loki's got his show. Banner's gone. Thor's Mia, and we've got a flying fortress that just got knifed in the back." Steve looked grim. "Loki's playing us, turning us against each other." Deku stood by the console, looking down at the bloodstained ground. Coulson never stood a chance. He thought it was the real Loki. Fury's one eye flicked to the team. "None of us did." He turned, holding something in his hand, the vintage Captain America trading cards, now soaked in blood. These were in Coulson's jacket. "He had them since you were thawed," he told Steve. Steve stared at the cards. The blood was almost black under the dim light. "He believed in you," Fury added. "All of you." The room fell silent. Deku's fists clenched at his sides. "He talked to me about heroes once," he said quietly. "Asked if it was still worth it, putting your life on the line when the world keeps falling apart." Steve met his gaze. "What did you tell him?" "That heroes don't stop. Not until everyone's safe." Fury glanced toward the screens, pulling up a visual, Stark Tower lighting up with new energy readings. Looks like we've got a destination. Tony stepped forward. He needs power for the portal. The tower's arc reactor could supply it. Steve squared his shoulders. Then we stop him. Deku took a step forward. I'm coming too. Tony raised an eyebrow. You sure, kid? I can handle myself. I'm stronger than I was. 45% of my power, and I've got a few new tricks. Fury nodded once. You three are all we've got left right now. Make it count. Round pushpin Quinjet. En route to Manhattan. Wind rushed past the open ramp. Steve adjusted his shield. Tony suited up in his armor silently, the arc reactor glowing with intent. Izuku sat quietly across from them, wearing his dark, tactical version of the costume, reinforced gloves flexing with tension. Black whip curled loosely around his forearm like living thread, crackling with faint green sparks. No jokes now, just focus. Steve finally spoke. He's expecting us to break. That's how he wins. Izuku nodded. Then we don't. Tony stood, helmet locking into place. We'll give him a show. Steve looked at both of them, then forward at the skyline. Suit up. The Quinjet's engines roared as it streaked toward New York City. Through the cockpit glass, the skyline was already under siege. A swirling blue vortex hovered over Stark Tower, and alien ships rained from it like fire from the heavens. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Tony Stark stood near the rear hatch, glancing at the display on his wrist. The readings were spiking. He didn't wait for anyone. I'll go ahead. Loki's expecting me. Without ceremony, he stepped toward the rear of the Quinjet, suit forming around him in gleaming pieces. Iron Man launched out of the aircraft, banking toward the tower. Captain America watched him go before turning to the rest. All right, we move in together. Clint Barton, now fully armed and focused, nodded once. His bow was already in hand, specialized arrowheads magnetically clipped to his thigh. Natasha gave him a brief glance before checking her sidearm and moving to the door. Midoriya stood between them, his dark, armored suit reinforced from their last encounter. His expression was sharp, focused. Black whip flickered faintly around his fingers, reacting to his elevated adrenaline. Steve gave Izuku a glance. You stick close to me. We form the first line of defense. Midoriya nodded. Got it. I'll follow your lead. The Quinjet banked hard, weaving between the early Chidori scouts zipping through the air on gliders. Explosions dotted the skyline in the distance. Natasha secured her gear and turned to Clint. We get people out, fast. The second Loki unleashes the army, this city's a war zone. The jet touched down hard on a rooftop overlooking Grand Central. The rear ramp slammed open. Move, Cap ordered. The team bolted into the chaos, Clint heading to a vantage point, Natasha darting down an alley toward the incoming wave. Cap dropped into the street with Deku at his side. The pavement trembled, screams echoed from nearby blocks. A Chidori warship soared overhead. Deku clenched his fists as civilians ran past him. His eyes burned with urgency, Black Whip beginning to pulse brighter. Protect first, then fight, he muttered, repeating his personal code. Steve looked at him. Hold that line. We give Stark as much time as we can to close that portal. They turned as a Chidori troop drop cracked into the street, metallic bodies slithering out. Cap raised his shield. Avengers, move out. Deku's muscles tensed. Float kicked in. Black Whip unfurled like a serpent. The battle had begun. The sky cracked open like the heavens had been torn apart. Above Stark Tower, the swirling portal pulsed with shimmering blue energy, a glowing scar across the fabric of reality. One by one, alien warships poured through. Sleek Chidori gliders, armored soldiers, and the monstrous, serpent-like leviathans crashing down like titans of steel. The streets erupted into chaos. Civilians screamed. Cars exploded. Glass rained from high rises as the Chidori opened fire. A flash of red, white, and blue landed in the center of the intersection. Steve Rogers, shield raised, voice commanding. This is the rally point. He barked into his comms. Secure a perimeter. We hold them here. Landing just behind him with his legs crouched and fist cratering the ground came Izuku Midoriya, clad in his darker, sleeker hero costume, black armored panels across his chest and limbs, his glowing cyan eyes locked in. Dust and wind whipped around him as his black whip tendrils unraveled from his wrists and anchored to a crumbling street lamp. Midoriya, status? Cap asked. Civilians are moving into the subway tunnels, Deku reported, glancing over his shoulder. I pushed a group into the maintenance tunnels under 42nd. A few stragglers still trapped on the east side. I'll move now. Cap nodded. Clear it fast. We need every street open. Just then, glider fire strafed the pavement. Deku lunged upward with a burst of float, dodging the blasts midair. He twisted, catching a glimpse of 3 Chidori riders flanking a bus where several civilians crouched. Not today. With a flick of his arm, Black Whip lashed out like twin whips, snaring the lead glider. The tendril pulled it sideways, crashing it into a lamppost. Deku launched after the second one, channeling 45% one for all into his legs. Delaware smash. Airburst. He snapped his fingers midair, and the shockwave flung the second rider clean off his glider. The third pulled up, and an arrow whistled through the air, striking it square in the throat. Thanks, Hawkeye, Deku muttered. Clint Barton's voice crackled through the comms. You catch, I pitch. Don't get cocky, kid. Deku grinned, despite the chaos, and landed beside the bus. Go, he yelled, waving the civilians toward an underground stairwell. Stay low, keep moving. Across the intersection, Black Widow and Cap moved like a synchronized machine. Natasha planted charges beneath a Chidori hover bike, kicked it into a passing war beast's path, and watched it detonate in a fiery ball. Steve, meanwhile, used his shield like a slingshot, ricocheting it between 3 Chidori and catching it without a beat. Then came the rumble. Something massive thundered down the street. A leviathan, crushing pavement beneath it as it slithered between skyscrapers. Its metallic armor gleamed, and its mouth opened, charging a blinding plasma beam. Cap spun around. Midoriya, I see it. Deku launched upward with a burst of wind, Black Whip spiraling like a jet streamer behind him. The leviathan turned, fixing him with mechanical eyes. All right, he muttered under his breath. Keep the collateral low, redirect the blast. He whipped both arms forward. Black Whip lashed around the creature's mandibles, yanking its head upward, just as it fired. The beam carved a clean line into the sky, narrowly missing a high-rise full of bystanders. Now, Deku roared. He surged forward, muscles straining, eyes sparking. 45%. Street. Lewis smash. The blow connected with a thunderous crack, shaking the windows in every direction. The Leviathan howled, staggered, and crashed sideways into a corporate tower, concrete and steel raining down. Deku landed hard, sliding backward, boots carving twin trenches in the street. He dropped to one knee, chest heaving, Black Whip twitching erratically from the overload. Cap sprinted to his side and helped him up. You all right? Deku nodded. Still standing. Good. Steve tapped his comms. Romanov, status. Natasha's voice came through. They're spreading out, trying to flank us. Barton's covering the rooftop. We've got 5 Leviathans in the city and more incoming. Any word from Stark? Still engaging around the tower. No word yet. Suddenly, several drop pods slammed into the street around them. Chidori soldiers poured out, flanking from alleyways. Here we go again, Cap muttered. He raised his shield. Deku stood beside him, energy flickering along his arms. His gloves smoked slightly from overuse, but his eyes were clear. We protect the civilians, Cap said. Deku nodded. And we don't break. The Chidori charged. Steve deflected blasts, throwing his shield with precision. Deku darted in and out, floating and dashing midair, punching through enemy ranks with bursts of controlled power. A stray shot hit him across the ribs. He staggered but kept moving. Black Whip. Tangle net. He extended his arms. 5 tendrils of dark energy spread wide like a fishing net, ensnaring half a dozen Chidori and slamming them into the ground with a boom. High above, Clint provided cover fire. Midoriya, 6 o'clock. Deku spun, caught a Chidori with a shoulder charge, and used float to leap over a flipped car and land beside Natasha. Hey, she said, planting a mine behind her. Having fun yet? He smiled. Weirdly, yes. Then the Leviathan's roar echoed again, louder, closer. Another one was making its way straight for their street. Fallback plan? Deku asked. Natasha nodded toward the skyline. Hope Stark or Thor has one. Smoke thickened the sky, mixing with the distant sounds of destruction, explosions, sirens, and the roar of alien engines. The portal above Stark Tower pulsed, the gateway for the invading Chidori army. Midoriya hovered on the rooftop, black whip tendrils coiled at his sides, his dark, sleek hero suit torn but resilient. Below, chaos raged on the streets, but the team was finally together. Steve Rogers stepped forward, scanning the battlefield with his shield strapped firmly on his back. "All right, listen up," Steve said, voice steady and commanding, as the rest of the heroes gathered close. "Thor, you're holding the portal. Keep those big guys grounded." Thor nodded, eyes crackling with electricity. "Hulk, smash your way through the streets. Take out as many as you can." Hulk roared, cracking his knuckles. "Tony, take to the skies. Clear the air." Tony Stark flipped his mask down, eyes glowing through his hood. "Natasha and Barton, cover the flanks, pick off any sneaky ones." They acknowledged the orders with determined nods. Steve turned to Midoriya, his gaze firm. "Deku, you're with me. You're fast and strong. I want you handling crowd control and evacuations. You'll work with NYPD to clear civilians and move them to safety." Midoriya blinked, surprised but ready. "I understand. I'll get as many people out as I can." Steve clasped his shoulder briefly. "Good. We'll be counting on you." Round pushpin downtown Manhattan, near 6th Avenue. Midoriya darted low, using float to weave through twisted steel and debris. Black whip tendrils shot out to grab fallen beams and pull trapped civilians free. "Move back. This area is compromised," Midoriya shouted, coordinating with police officers struggling to maintain order amid the chaos. A woman with a small child clung to a cracked pillar, crying. Midoriya shot a tendril, gently lifting her and the child into his arms, then floated them above the chaos toward a safer zone. Nearby, a group of trapped firefighters struggled beneath a collapsing wall. Midoriya fired Black Whip again, pulling the rubble away with precise strength, freeing them just as a leviathan screeched overhead. Round Pushpin Street intersection, East 42nd. Midoriya landed beside an overwhelmed officer. "We need to push the civilians south, toward the safe zone at 34th. Midoriya ordered, his voice calm but urgent. "On it," the officer responded, rallying his squad. Midoriya ran ahead, clearing the path, taking down Chidori scouts with well-placed kicks and whip strikes. When a hovercraft zoomed toward a crowd, he whipped out a tendril, yanking it out of the air and sending it crashing to the ground. A man trapped beneath a fallen sign gasped for air. Midoriya wrapped a tendril beneath the sign, lifting it with ease, then helped the man up. "Keep moving. You're safe now," Midoriya assured him before taking off again. Round pushpin near a subway entrance. Midoriya guided civilians down into the underground tunnels, away from the battle. "Stay calm. Keep moving," he instructed, using float to scout ahead. Suddenly, distant explosions shook the tunnel walls. Without hesitation, Midoriya extended Black Whip to steady a panicked elderly woman who had stumbled. "We'll get through this," he promised. Round pushpin high above the battle, on a rooftop. Midoriya caught his breath, wiping sweat from his brow. His suit was torn, scratches marking his face and arms, but his eyes shone with determination. Through his comms, Natasha's voice came. "Deku, NYPD says your coordination has saved hundreds. They're holding the perimeter and pushing civilians to safe zones faster than expected." Midoriya smiled faintly, nodding. "I'm not done yet." He launched into the air again, Black Whip at the ready, soaring into the thick of the chaos. The sky boiled above Stark Tower. The Tesseract-fueled portal widened, spilling alien ships into the world like a second sky opening up. Natasha Romanoff stood at the top of the tower, bruised but resolved, slamming Loki's scepter into the device controlling the Tesseract. Sparks flew, but the core resisted her. "I can shut it down," she yelled over comms. "I just need a little more time." Round pushpin streets of Midtown, Midoriya's focus. Below, Midoriya was the eye in a storm. Floating between rooftops and tossing rubble aside with Black Whip, he kept rerouting citizens away from danger, stepping into Cap's former role as the main line of crowd defense. A young girl cried out behind a crushed city bus. Deku landed hard, shielding her and her mother as stray Chidori fire ricocheted off his back. "You're safe. Get to the subway tunnel." he urged, black cloak whipping in the heat wind. Civilians followed him, panic slowly giving way to hope. Round pushpin shield, helicarrier, command deck. Nick Fury stood before the looming screen where the World Security Council glared back at him. Councilman. Director Fury, the council has made a decision. Fury. I recognize the council has made a decision. But given that it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it. Fury's hand twitched near his holster, but the feed cut out. Moments later, one of the helipad officers looked up in horror. Sir, they've launched a nuke. Manhattan. Without a word, Fury turned and sprinted to the jet bay. Round pushpin sky above Manhattan, missile launch. Fury burst into a Quinjet cockpit and launched a pursuit missile, but it was too late. The government's warhead soared past him, straight toward New York. Damn it, Fury barked. Round pushpin Stark Tower, decision point. From above, the Chidori Leviathans roared as they fell into formation. Thor was knocked down. Steve was limping. Clint and Natasha were out of arrows and ammo. Even Hulk looked exhausted. Iron Man's voice cracked over the comms. Stark here. I see the nuke. Steve. Stark, you know that thing's headed for the city. Tony. I know where it's going. I just need to redirect it. He paused for a breath. And one last move. Tony called Pepper. No answer. Another call. Straight to voicemail. Come on. Come on, he whispered. The call disconnected. His voice shook. Jarvis, you still with me? At your service, sir. Open the suit. I'm gonna ride this out. Round pushpin above the city, through the portal. Iron Man caught the nuke midair and changed course. Jets burned red hot. The G-forces crushed him. I'm taking it through the portal, he said into the comms. Natasha. Tony, don't. It's the only play. The missile passed into the wormhole, Tony vanishing with it. Round pushpin inside the wormhole, silence and fire. Floating weightless in the alien dark, Tony watched the Chidori mothership ahead. Then the missile detonated, a star igniting in the void. Round pushpin Stark Tower rooftop, Natasha closes the portal. Above the chaos, Natasha gritted her teeth, Loki's scepter still in hand. She stabbed it down into the Tesseract's core. The light dimmed. The swirling blue vortex began to close. Now, she screamed. Round pushpin Midoriya, high ground. From a damaged rooftop, Midoriya looked up just in time to see the portal fold in on itself like crumpled paper. But something shot back out just before it vanished. Fast, spinning, burning. It's Tony. Steve called out. Midoriya's danger sense flared like an alarm. He leapt off the ledge, using float and blackwhip, accelerating in a streak of energy. The impact of Iron Man's falling body cracked the air, but Deku caught him, arms straining under the weight, sparks flying as they tumbled across a rooftop. Round pushpin moments later, reunited. Deku knelt beside Tony. Mr. Stark. Tony. No response. Thor landed beside them. He's not breathing. Hulk appeared a second later, and without hesitation, roared into the sky. The vibration shocked Tony's heart. He gasped, jolting upright. Did we win? He asked hoarsely. Yeah, Midoriya said, exhaling. You saved the world. Tony blinked. Better tell Pepper. Stark Tower. Later that day. Smoke still curled into the sky as the bottle's final echoes faded. Chidori wreckage littered the streets. Civilians emerged slowly, dazed but grateful. Reporters, drones, and helicopters circled overhead, trying to piece together what had happened. Midoriya stood near the base of the shattered Stark Tower, arms crossed, silent. His costume was torn, parts of the armored plating blackened, his green tunic slashed through. His hair was a mess, eyes still glowing faintly from Blackwhip's recent use. Scuff marks ran along his jaw and arms, and flecks of blood, not his, stained his gloves. Beside him, Steve Rogers and Natasha surveyed the scene. Clint helped S.H.I.E.L.D. agents direct traffic and gather civilians. Thor had left with Loki and the Tesseract, disappearing in a burst of Bifrost light. Phil Coulson was still alive, barely, now on his way to a secured S.H.I.E.L.D. medical bay. Fury watched the cleanup from a rooftop, silent and contemplative. The world had changed, and the people who changed it stood bruised, broken, and victorious. Steve, to Midoriya, you did good out there. Real good. Izuku looked up. eyes wide with surprise, then gave a small nod. Izuku. I was just doing my job. Like all of you. Tony, strolling in. Kid's got a habit of being too humble. He caught me out of the sky. That earns him at least dinner. On me. Steve gave a small, rare smile. Tony. Ever had shawarma? Izuku, tilting his head. Shaw what? Round pushpin post-credits scene. Shawarma joint, Lower Manhattan. A tiny Mediterranean restaurant. Half the sign had been blown off. The windows cracked from the alien invasion. Yet inside, strangely untouched, a family quietly cleaned behind the counter, occasionally sneaking confused glances at the booth in the back. There, the Avengers sat in silence. All of them. Izuku sat between Bruce and Clint, posture stiff, still not sure if he was allowed to eat yet. Steve leaned on his arm, eyes unfocused. Tony sat slumped in his chair, still in parts of his armor, chewing like a man who hadn't eaten in days. Natasha looked ready to fall asleep. Clint poked at his food with a plastic fork. Deku finally leaned forward and took a small bite. He chewed, paused, eyes lit up slightly. Izuku muttering, This is really good. Still, nobody spoke. The whole team ate in exhausted, almost sacred silence. Behind them, the city began to rebuild. Fade to black. Location: Stark Mansion, Malibu, post-Battle of New York. The sound of tools whirring. Sparks fly from a welding arm. Holograms rotate in midair. Half-finished suits line the workshop walls like silent sentinels. Tony Stark hasn't slept in 2 days. He leans over his bench, goggles on, soldering a neural interface node into a new glove module. But behind him, quietly and curiously watching, is Izuku Midoriya. That's the Mark 42, right? Izuku asks, nodding toward the gold and red armor frame suspended by robotic arms. Tony grunts without turning. Smart kid. Either that or you peeked at the schematics, which, let's be honest, is more like something I'd do. Izuku offers a small, sheepish smile. Both. Tony finally sets the soldering iron down and sighs. You ever sleep, Midoriya? You haven't either, Izuku counters. Tony points at him like touche. Round pushpin later, upstairs living room. Tony tosses a flash drive onto a coffee table. It slides toward Izuku. I pulled energy readings from the portal signature you fell out of. Cross-referenced it with anomalies from the Battle of New York. It's not Asgardian. Not anything we've seen from the Tesseract either. Izuku looks up. So there is a way to find it. Tony shrugs. Maybe. It's multiversal theory. Basically string spaghetti. But hey, I'm building suits, dodging therapy, and possibly getting targeted by a lunatic named Mandarin. Might as well add transdimensional Uber to the to-do list. Izuku leans forward. Thank you. Tony pauses, looking at him for a long moment. You remind me of someone, he mutters. Always trying to save people. Never asking what it costs. Izuku frowns. It's worth it. Tony doesn't argue, but his silence speaks volumes. Round pushpin news broadcast. Live. Another explosion has rocked the U.S. consulate in Pakistan. The terrorist known as the Mandarin has claimed responsibility. Tony stares at the screen. The reporter continues. No suspects. No bomb fragments. Only a clean, scorched radius. No shrapnel. No source. Izuku narrows his eyes. That almost looks like someone exploded from the inside. Tony turns to him, intrigued. Say more. Round pushpin hours later, Tony's workshop. The tension builds. Tony's obsession grows. Suits multiply. Tests become more erratic. Panic attacks start to surface. Izuku finds him hyperventilating in the garage one night, sitting in the suit with the faceplate up. He rushes over. Tony, you're okay. It's not an attack. Tony can't breathe. He claws at his chest. Izuku steadies him, laying a hand on his shoulder, voice firm but calm. You're safe. You're not in New York. Just breathe in and out. You're not alone. Tony exhales, shaking. After a long silence, he mutters. You're too young to be the adult in the room. Izuku doesn't smile. You're not the only one who went through a war. Round pushpin next day. Tony's press conference canon scene. My name is Tony Stark, and I'm not afraid of you. I know you're a coward. So here's my home address. 10,880 Malibu Point. I'll leave the door unlocked. Izuku watches it on the TV with wide eyes. This is not crowd control, he mutters. Round pushpin. The calm before the storm. Tony and Pepper argue upstairs about his recklessness. Izuku walks quietly outside to the cliffside edge of the mansion, watching the sunset. In his notebook, he writes. Tony's scared. He hides it behind ego. Suits. Sarcasm. But he still fights. Still tries to help. I want to be someone like that. Overhead, the sound of distant rotors. The helicopters are coming. Sometime later, smoke still billowed from the ocean as pieces of Tony's Malibu mansion drifted away in the waves. Rescue drones circled overhead, scanning for survivors, while the flickering glow of fire painted the night red. A battered escape pod had washed up onto the rocky shore, steaming in the night air. Inside it, Tony Stark, still in pieces of the damaged Mark 42 armor, stared blankly at the hollow display in front of him. Pepper had been flown to a secure location via remote extraction ordered by JARVIS, and Midoriya sat across from Tony, slumped, unconscious. The boy's costume was shredded. He was breathing, but shallow. Sparks occasionally flickered from a small implant port on his forearm, identical to Tony's own, a gift Stark had developed for Izuku to summon emergency armor remotely, still in prototype form. JARVIS's voice buzzed in Tony's ear. Sir, the secondary power core on Midoriya's suit has been damaged. The arc relay signal is scrambled. His emergency armor cannot be deployed remotely until diagnostics are completed. Tony frowned, leaning over the boy. Hang in there, kid. Another screen showed a trail leading inland, a rural town in Tennessee. Coordinates he'd programmed after seeing strange heat signatures tied to the Mandarin attacks. I have to follow this, Tony muttered. He's not gonna stop until I end it. He reached for a blanket, tossing it over Midoriya, then checked the stabilizing nanogle now injected into the teen's side. Sir, life signs stabilizing. Internal fractures and quirk strain are healing, though slowly. Tony stood up, his expression hardened. All right, patch the Mark 42 for long-range flight, autopilot mode. We're going to Tennessee. And the boy. Tony looked down at Midoriya, his eyes lingering. Keep him hidden. Deep system lockdown. Pepper's safe, and I'll draw fire. The armor clicked into place around him. He placed a hand briefly on Izuku's shoulder. You saved us back there, kid. Now it's my turn. The Mark 42 engaged, lifting Stark into the sky like a comet. Moments later, he was a streak heading eastward across the U.S. Round pushpin location. Undisclosed safe house, somewhere in California. Hours later, Midoriya slowly awoke, blinking against the low red light of a sealed underground vault. A gentle hum of Stark tech filled the room. His body ached, and when he tried to sit up, pain lanced through his ribs. Kachan's hits never felt this bad. A drone hovered overhead, scanning him silently. Midoriya Izuku, welcome back to consciousness. Your vitals have stabilized. You are currently in a LEVEL-5 shield fallback facility per Mr. Stark's directive. Midoriya looked around. His eyes landed on a small console, a recorded message from Tony playing in a flickering hologram. Izuku, if you're seeing this, I've already left. Something weird's going on in Tennessee, and I have to check it out. You're grounded until your systems repair. No exceptions. That includes using 45% like a dumbass. Rest. When I come back, we'll finish what we started. And hey, don't wreck the place. Stark out. Izuku sat back and exhaled deeply. He hated waiting, but he also knew Tony wasn't one to ask for help unless things were serious. He looked at his scorched glove, where the implant port was still sparking. Fine, but when I'm ready, I'm coming too. Location. Shield. Safe house. Outskirts of California. The small desert facility buzzed with low voltage, the overhead lights flickering faintly as sparks danced across the workbench. Izuku Midoriya stood focused, his shirt off, sweat lining his toned frame, arms coated with smudges of oil and carbon. Laid out in front of him was something new. Something his own. A suit of armor, sleek and sharp, its silhouette inspired by his vigilante gear, black base plating with forest green accents, deep crimson trim around the gloves and boots, and a raised armored hood that nested seamlessly into the shoulders. The helmet was minimalist, stylized with slanted green eyes and an angular mast plate, echoing the design of his old cowl, just sleeker, tighter, fully enclosed. It wasn't torn, beaten down, or cobbled together. This was a hero's armor, born from hardship but built for purpose. A new design, he muttered, locking in the thigh plates with a quiet hiss. But this time, I'm not hiding. Costume from the Vigilante arc just armorized. At the chest, a softly glowing arc core pulsed, one of Stark's compact reactors, modified to work in tandem with Midoriya's unique physiology and power flow. The suit's internals were laced with responsive nanotech circuits, able to vent energy, regulate heat, and anchor his quirk bursts. He raised a gauntlet and twisted the wrist. The system purred. JARVIS, he called. Iron Deku suit diagnostics complete. Power output stable. Float feedback loops synced. One for all usage thresholds set to 65%. Midoriya tightened the final forearm clamp, the suit locking into place across his chest, shoulders, and boots. The hooded helmet folded forward over his head, concealing his face behind a glowing green visor. Deploying final helmet seals. Hiss. Click. It was done. Outside. Desert air. Midnight. He stood in silence, the dry wind sweeping across the sand. His cape, newly reinforced with polymer weave, hung just enough to move like fabric but resist fire and tearing. This was his version of Iron Man. His symbol. Tony's fighting alone out there. I'm not staying back. His boots hummed. His thrusters ignited. With a blast of emerald propulsion and kinetic energy winding in his calves, Midoriya took to the sky, launching upward, leaving twin trails of smoke and green light behind. JARVIS, track Iron Man's trajectory. Last known ping. Rose Hill, Tennessee. Locking now. Estimated intercept in 9 minutes. Thermal traces confirm hostile presence near his location. Midoriya narrowed his eyes behind the helmet. Then let's move. Round pushpin cut to Rose Hill, Tennessee, Harley's garage. Inside the cluttered garage, Tony Stark winced as another failed energy discharge popped and fizzled in his hand. Harley grinned while chewing on gummy worms. Pretty sure I told you that part was broken. Tony glared. You're enjoying this too much. Then, BLAMMM. A rush of compressed air and green smoke blew the front door open. Both heads snapped to the entrance. A figure stepped through the mist. Green and white Owleen's color on the armor gleaming under the garage light, a green arc core pulsing at the chest. Emerald highlights traced across the shoulders and boots. The helmet slid open smoothly as the fog cleared. Izuku Midoriya stood tall, battle ready. Told you I'd catch up, Mr. Stark. Tony stared, then blinked. Okay. Wow, I leave you with a soldering kit, and you build a damn Gundam. Harley whispered, that's cooler than yours. Midoriya chuckled and stepped forward, removing a tool from his hip. Suits fully online, and I synced my power levels for emergency deployment. But I heard you needed backup. Tony groaned, rubbing his shoulder. Yeah, well, backup with style. Welcome to Tennessee, Iron Deku. Location. Rose Hill, Tennessee, Harley's garage. The lights flickered again. Smoke hissed out of a cooling valve as Izuku Midoriya, visor lifted, sat crouched over Tony's ruined Mark 42 suit, wires splayed across the table like spilled entrails. JARVIS chimed softly in his ear. Sir's vitals have gone offline for over 2 minutes. Tracking beacon is active, but communication is severed. Izuku clenched his jaw. That means he's been captured. He looked at the wreckage of the Iron Man suit. Limbs still separated, one gauntlet nearly melted, arc stabilizer flickering. Harley sat to the side, quiet now. Do you think they'll kill him? Deku didn't answer right away. They won't get the chance. He stood up, gloved hands tightening. His own armor, Iron Deku, was already online and at 90% charge. But the Mark 42, that was Stark's symbol. Midoriya knew what it meant to him. JARVIS, bypass the fractured servos and reroute power flow through auxiliary channels. I'm finishing this suit. He's going to need it when I get him out. Acknowledged, Mr. Midoriya. With sparks dancing around his arms, Deku activated Fa Jin in his legs, supercharging his speed for microburst of motion as he moved across the suit components with mechanical precision. The sound of tools, hydraulic locks, and energy pulses filled the garage. He remembered something Tony once said, "You know what keeps me alive? Technology and stubbornness." Midoriya smirked slightly. Same. Round pushpin cut to remote mansion, Mandarin's hideout. Tony was chained, bruised, and smirking defiantly at Aldrich Killian. Outside, the guards were alert. Suddenly, the outer perimeter sensors started blaring. Whump! A metal-clad fist struck like a missile, crashing through the side wall of the compound. Dust and concrete flew as a figure stepped through, not red and gold, but green and black, the glowing arc reactor shining like a beacon. Iron Deku had arrived. He raised both arms, palms glowing with stored Fa-Jin energy. Green sparks arced along the suit's limbs. "You took the wrong billionaire." Guards opened fire. Midoriya launched forward, a blur of movement and concussive bursts as he dismantled the first wave. Explosions lit up the corridor as he vaulted into the compound, dodging fire with danger sense twitching behind his eyes. Round pushpin inside the chamber. Tony raised an eyebrow as the blast door caved inward. About time. Midoriya tossed him a repaired gauntlet, the Mark 42 forearm, now glowing steadily. "Get up. We've got extremist soldiers inbound." Tony smirked, sliding it on. "Guess I owe you for finishing the repairs." "Nah, just don't make me finish it again." Tony cracked his neck. "Let's go wreck a science project." Location: Rose Hill, Tennessee, Harley's garage. The lights flickered again. Smoke hissed out of a cooling valve as Izuku Midoriya, visor lifted, sat crouched over Tony's ruined Mark 42 suit, wires splayed across the table like spilled entrails. JARVIS chimed softly in his ear. "Sir's vitals have gone offline for over 2 minutes. Tracking beacon is active, but communication is severed." Izuku clenched his jaw. "That means he's been captured." He looked at the wreckage of the Iron Man suit. Limbs still separated, one gauntlet nearly melted, arc stabilizer flickering. Harley sat to the side, quiet now. "Do you think they'll kill him?" Deku didn't answer right away. "They won't get the chance." He stood up, gloved hands tightening. His own armor, Iron Deku, was already online and at 90% charge. But the Mark 42, that was Stark's symbol. Midoriya knew what it meant to him. JARVIS, bypass the fractured servos and reroute power flow through auxiliary channels. "I'm finishing this suit. He's going to need it when I get him out." "Acknowledged, Mr. Midoriya." With sparks dancing around his arms, Deku activated Fa-Jin in his legs, supercharging his speed for microburst of motion as he moved across the suit components with mechanical precision. The sound of tools, hydraulic locks, and energy pulses filled the garage. He remembered something Tony once said, "You know what keeps me alive? Technology and stubbornness." Midoriya smirked slightly. Same. Round pushpin cut to remote mansion, Mandarin's hideout. Tony was chained, bruised, and smirking defiantly at Aldrich Killian. Outside, the guards were alert. Suddenly, the outer perimeter sensors started blaring. Whump! A metal-clad fist struck like a missile, crashing through the side wall of the compound. Dust and concrete flew as a figure stepped through, not red and gold, but green and black, the glowing arc reactor shining like a beacon. Iron Deku had arrived. He raised both arms, palms glowing with stored Fa-Jin energy. Green sparks arced along the suit's limbs. "You took the wrong billionaire." Guards opened fire. Midoriya launched forward, a blur of movement and concussive bursts as he dismantled the first wave. Explosions lit up the corridor as he vaulted into the compound, dodging fire with danger sense twitching behind his eyes. Round pushpin inside the chamber. Tony raised an eyebrow as the blast door caved inward. About time. Midoriya tossed him a repaired gauntlet, the Mark 42 forearm, now glowing steadily. "Get up. We've got extremist soldiers inbound." Tony smirked, sliding it on. "Guess I owe you for finishing the repairs." "Nah, just don't make me finish it again." Tony cracked his neck. "Let's go wreck a science project." Airspace. Approaching Air Force One. JARVIS, get me visuals, Tony ordered as the jet shook lightly, the glow of HUDs lighting up their faces. Deku leaned over the holographic projection. He had the dark armored version of his usual costume, now dubbed the Iron Deku Mark 1, clamped around his body like second skin. It bore Tony's engineering but Midoriya's color schemes and heroic flair. Functional, streamlined, ready. Hostile presence confirmed aboard Air Force One, JARVIS said. One extremis enhanced target. Tony gave Deku a side glance. You ready? Midoriya took a breath. As I'll ever be. Midoriya, wait in the drop bay. I'll take the lead and open a path. Round pushpin Air Force One. The ramp burst open with a thunderous crack as Tony's suit connected with the tail section. The extremis soldier had already begun his rampage, melting through reinforced walls, sending agents flying. Tony intercepted fast, blasting the soldier mid-leap, and Tony didn't hesitate. He fired straight into the extremis core, a fatal blast. The body exploded in a wave of heat and sparks. Deku winced. He stepped out once the flames died down. You didn't even blink. Tony looked tired. You'll learn. Sometimes blinking gets someone killed. Midoriya nodded slowly. He didn't like it, but he understood. Inside, panic. A bomb had ripped through the side, causing decompression. One by one, people were being sucked into the sky. Back in the jet, Midoriya gritted his teeth. Then, now, JARVIS. He leapt from the rear hold, free falling, black whip flaring from his arms to latch onto a falling cargo crate. He swung through the air, using float to decelerate, carefully zipping to falling passengers. You've done this before, he whispered to himself. You've done harder. He looped black whip under two civilians and slowed their descent, float keeping him stable. He tossed a third onto a parachute that Tony deployed. Together, they cleared the sky, guiding everyone safely into the water. Deku touched down just behind Stark, panting. Everyone's safe. Tony nodded, impressed. Nice whip work, kid. Round pushpin boat, en route to Roxxon oil rig. The sea wind howled. Inside the rusted fishing boat, Tony reviewed schematics of the oil platform. We got dozens of heat signatures. Extremis, most likely. I'll call the Legion in, we blitz it. Rescue the president. Midoriya adjusted the plates on his gauntlet. His suit was fully recharged, systems humming quietly. Do we know where they're keeping him? Top structure. Big dramatic hostage display. Very on brand for Killian. Tony looked at Midoriya. You're rescuing Pepper and keeping them off my back. Midoriya nodded. Understood. I can do that. But inside, he felt a flicker. A pressure. A hum under his skin. As if something was waiting to be used. Something building. Location. Oil rig, night. The storm roars around the isolated rig, waves crashing violently against the platform's legs. Spotlights cut through the darkness as alarms blare inside the facility. Inside the control room, Tony Stark faces off against Aldrich Killian, the tension palpable. Killian's extremis powers flicker violently with each punch, but Tony holds his ground, relying on precision and wit. Meanwhile, somewhere deeper in the rig, Izuku Midoriya, wearing his freshly armored Iron Deku suit, sleek and black with glowing green highlights, moves swiftly through the corridors. His breathing is steady, but his mind races. He feels something stirring inside him, something new. He recalls All Might's training, the countless hours spent pushing his body beyond limits, and the quiet whispers of energy he once only glimpsed. Fa Jin, the legendary technique, build and store momentum, then unleash it explosively. The suit hums softly around him, integrating his movements and augmenting his already enhanced speed and durability. Deku closes his eyes briefly, centering himself. Focus. Gather. He dashes forward, small pulses of energy sparking around his hands and feet as he channels stored kinetic force. His float ability helps him maintain perfect balance, even on the slippery metal walkways slick with oil and rain. In one fluid motion, Deku charges forward, his arms coiled like springs, then releases the stored energy in a powerful burst of speed and strength, his signature Fa Jin strike. The impact sends a guard flying into a wall, incapacitated but unharmed. Deku doesn't waste time. He maneuvers through the rig's maze-like interior, his danger sense alerting him to nearby threats. Finally, he reaches the holding area where Pepper Potts is trapped, struggling against her restraints. Two extremis-enhanced guards block the entrance, their glowing veins pulsating with deadly heat. Deku doesn't hesitate. Using Fa Jin, he channels momentum into a spinning leap, striking the first guard with a rapid barrage of blows amplified by his suit's power. The second guard swings a flaming fist, but Deku floats just out of reach, then counters with a precise strike to the ribs. The guards collapse, incapacitated. He quickly frees Pepper. Pepper, are you okay? She nods, catching her breath. Tony's still fighting Killian. We need to move. Just then, Tony's voice crackles in Deku's earpiece, laced with grit but calm. Tony. Deku, you're doing great. Trust me, I got this guy. Just get Pepper out safe. You're my best shot at keeping her alive. Deku clenches his jaw. I won't let you down. Round pushpin oil rig, reactor core platform. The battle between Tony Stark and Aldrich Killian has reached a boiling point. Killian lunges with molten fury, his Extremis-enhanced body glowing like lava under pressure. His regenerative powers keep him on the offensive, and his fury is unmatched. Tony's own suits have either been destroyed or called away. His last one, Mark 42, lies in pieces from the earlier assault. Tony breathes heavily, bruised and burnt, eyeing Killian with a tinge of defiance and resignation. Suddenly, a green glowing gauntlet crashes through the side wall. The iron Deku suit bursts in, controlled remotely by Tony, guided by a gesture from a worn and bruised Midoriya standing on a walkway above. Tony, Izuku shouts down. Use it. I'll be fine. Tony gives him a look, surprised, then grateful. You sure? Izuku nods, already unstrapping the remaining armor pieces from his body. I made it for battle, not souvenirs. With a simple command, the iron Deku suit disconnects from Midoriya and reassembles around Tony like a second skin. The helmet snaps shut, green eyes glowing through the visor. Tony raises a repulsor at Killian. Hey, glowstick, catch. Killian snarls, charging again, but Tony's already a step ahead. He activates the trap function of the iron Deku suit. Small anchor charges deploy from the limbs, locking around Killian's torso. Izuku, watching from the side, recognizes the final step. Tony's going to finish this the only way left. Tony locks eyes with Killian through the HUD. Tony, you want my secrets? Here, take one. Command. Detonate suit. The iron Deku armor flashes a warning across the internal display, then explodes in a controlled blast, engulfing Killian in a concussive fireball. The platform shakes violently as Killian is finally neutralized, his regenerating body unable to recover from the full-force blast. He collapses in a fiery heap, unmoving. Tony stumbles out from the edge of the debris, coughing, but alive. Izuku rushes toward him from above, panting, helping him steady. You okay? Tony grins tiredly. You kidding? That suit of yours is lethal. Pretty sure mine wouldn't have finished the job if I used mine. Izuku laughs weakly, more out of exhaustion. Guess I'll need to start building version 2. Tony looks back at the smoking remains of the iron Deku suit. Or maybe, something even better. Together, round pushpin moments later, Pepper safe, rig evacuation begins. With Pepper rescued and Killian finally gone, the rig begins to collapse from the damage. Emergency crews and SHIELD agents begin pulling people out as Izuku, Tony, and Pepper exit through the scaffold platforms. Izuku glances one last time at the shattered pieces of his armor before walking away. His iron Deku suit, a symbol of how far he'd come in this new world, was gone, but he didn't need it to be a hero. He had one for all, new power FA Jin, and the heart to push forward. Malibu, Tony's rebuilt estate weeks later. The sun hangs low over the Pacific. The rebuilt shell of Tony's oceanside mansion gleams with scaffolding and drones still finishing up repairs. Inside, the heart of it all, the new lab, hums with energy. But it's not just Tony's lab anymore. On the far end, away from Stark's usual tech chaos, a new workstation buzzes with green lighting and customized panels. Tools, blueprints, sketches, all belonging to Izuku Midoriya, aka the stranger from another world who helped save it. Deku stands shirtless, sweat on his brow, welding torch in hand. Not armor this time, something simpler, something personal. Tony's voice echoes through the intercom. Hey, Green Bean, pizza's here. You gonna keep playing Da Vinci or come up for air? Deku chuckles and sets the torch down. Be right there. He takes a step back, looking at the mannequin in front of him. It's not armor. It's not a weapon. It's a hero costume. Not the tactical black vigilante gear he wore on arrival. This one breathes life, a blend of bright, bold fabric and functional street-ready design. A deep forest green bodysuit forms the base, slim and mobile. The knee pads are subtly reinforced, colored bronze in honor of Ida's discipline. A sleek shoulder brace with 3 claw-like ridges nods toward Bakugo's intensity, but in form only, not for detonation. A stylized red belt and fingerless gloves give flair, paying homage to All Might's iconic colors, modernized into something uniquely his. On the back, a faint outline of wings and a tail, not literal, but inspired, is stitched in tribute to Tsuyu and Tokiyami, a reminder of the unique quirks and friendships that shaped him. And the final touch, a small, stitched patch over the heart, shaped like a lightning bolt through an arc reactor that was stitched on. A quiet tribute to One for All and Iron Man. His 2 anchors. It's not just a costume. It's a promise. To stay grounded. To remember where he came from, and who he's becoming. Tony walks in, holding a slice of pizza. Looks flashy. Less Iron Kid, more friendly than your last costume. Deku turns, smiling. It's kind of everything I've been carrying, stitched together. Tony looks over the design, nodding in genuine approval. No armor. You sure? I need to move freely. The armor helped, but I'm not Iron Man. I'm me. Tony raises the pizza in a toast. Then here's to the next generation of heroes, even if they drop out of the sky and break my workshop. They both laugh. Round pushpin closing shot. Lab, night. As the camera pulls back from the glowing lab, Deku stands before the mannequin, his hand resting on the chest of the suit. The light from the arc reactors above flickers across his determined expression. He's not trying to be a symbol anymore. He's ready to be a hero. Post-credit tease. In a dim shield facility, data from a destroyed portal glows on a screen. Nick Fury studies it. Maria Hill. There's still no reading on where he came from. Fury, gruff, then we find out. Because something tells me, we've only seen the beginning. Hydra Base. Sokovia. Snow blasts through the trees. Gunfire lights up the dark forest. The Quinjet zooms overhead while Iron Man, Captain America, and the rest of Earth's mightiest heroes wage war on Hydra's last stronghold. Amid the chaos, a streak of green and black zips between trees, boots crunching over frost-covered ground. Explosions boom. A soldier screams. Then, silence, before a fist drives into his chestplate and knocks him into unconsciousness. Izuku Midoriya, now just known to the world as Deku, lands hard, skidding on the ice. His armored gloves spark slightly as he lifts his hands and charges forward. Deku, internal monologue. 3 years. 3 years since I arrived in this world. 3 years of fighting alongside gods, geniuses, assassins, and legends. And in that time, I've grown stronger than I ever thought possible. He ducks beneath a blast from a Hydra rifle, twists his body midair, and flings out a black tendril of Blackwhip, wrapping it around a tree branch to launch himself forward. I've unlocked 6 quirks, each one from a past wielder of One for All. Each one, a lesson. Black Whip. The tendril slams into a group of enemies and binds them to a wall like living flypaper. First was Black Whip, tough to control at first. It's my Swiss Army knife now. Restraint, movement, combat support. Soon after came Float, from Nana Shimura. She taught me how to trust the wind, to rise above fear. Boom. He lifts off, dodging a rocket that explodes behind him. Then Danger Sense. It used to feel like a knife stabbing my skull when someone tried to ambush me, but now, it's like a gentle tug in the direction of incoming danger. It's more refined now, more helpful. A faint twitch in his spine warns him a second before a Hydra soldier fires from a rooftop. He turns, jumps, and fires a smoke pellet. Then, smokescreen. A thick fog spills from his armor's vents. He vanishes within it like a ghost. Smokescreen is great for misdirection. A lesson in chaos. Took me weeks to learn how to regulate the output. He drops down behind the soldier, taps his shoulder, boo. Then knocks him out cold. After that came Fa Jin. I unlocked it during the battle at the oil rig. Repeated motion stores energy I can release in one big burst. He ducks, sprints, pivots. 1 step, 2, 3, Fa Jin release. A blinding burst of speed launches him forward like a missile. He crashes through 2 soldiers like a cannonball. And finally, gear shift. I only just unlocked it months ago. It lets me speed up, or slow down, whatever I touch. It's tricky, but when it works. Deku touches a rifle midair. It slows in front of him. He casually moves out of the way as it floats like molasses. It's like controlling time itself. As the battle nears its peak, the Avengers begin converging near the Hydra stronghold. Iron Man punches through their defenses. Captain America throws his shield with precise command. Thor strikes with lightning. Hulk smashes everything in sight. Deku lands beside Steve just as he tosses his shield into a group of troopers. Captain America, good timing. Deku. Deku, grinning. Nice toss, Cap. His costume. Deku wears a custom suit inspired by his past. The green base and cowl pay homage to his old hero uniform. The shoulders bear patches resembling the school insignia of UA. High. Blue strips around the wrists. Jot remember Tenya. The gauntlets are inspired by I All Might. His boots echo Gran Torino's design. A utility belt shaped like Uraraka's. His back having wings to remember Tokiyami Tsuyu. Shoji. And the orange jagged lines to remember Kachan. On the back of his gloves, small etched kanji read, Shinyen, conviction. To this world, he's just Deku. But to him, he carries all of them with him, his mentors, his classmates, his legacy. As they breach the final doors and recover Loki's staff, Deku watches from the side, heart thudding. The weapon pulses in its glass tube. Something wrong, something deep. His danger sense twitches faintly, like a thread tugging at his soul. There's something inside that staff. Something old. Final scene. Tony, in comms. Got the scepter. Bringing it back. Natasha. All clear here. Steve. Let's go home. The Avengers load into the Quinjet. The doors close. The team begins to relax, some wiping off blood, others laughing in quiet relief. Deku leans back in his seat, his fingers tracing the edge of his glove. It's been 3 years, and I still don't know how to get back. But if I can keep helping here, if I can keep moving forward, then I'll make this place better too. The Avengers had returned from Sokovia victorious, Loki's scepter secured and Hydra's last stronghold dismantled. But the battle had only marked the beginning. Within the newly constructed Avengers Tower, now fully operated by JARVIS, the team moved quickly. Tony Stark and Bruce Banner had already taken the staff into the lab for examination, curious about the energy signature coming from the glowing gem in its center. Deku, wearing his custom-built hero suit, lightweight yet durable, a blend of deep green and black with subtle accents taken from his mentors and classmates, stood quietly, watching the others work. He had felt it the moment they retrieved the scepter. A pulse, like it's alive. In the lab, the tension was subtle but rising. Screens flashed with unfamiliar data as Tony moved between monitors, his brows furrowed in intense concentration. We can potentially harness this, Tony said, eyes fixed on the readings. I mean, look at this, it's not just energy. It's advanced, like a brain but quantum. A computer. Banner was less enthusiastic. Tony, this is alien technology. It's dangerous. We don't know what kind of intelligence we're dealing with. Deku leaned in, his arms crossed, quietly absorbing everything. He didn't speak often when he was in study mode, something he had developed from years of analyzing pro-heroes back home. 3 years, he thought. 3 years since I got here. He could feel his danger sense humming in the background. No pain anymore, just a faint tug, like invisible strings pulling slightly toward points of unrest. Subtle, advanced. He could now pinpoint hostility within a dozen meters with razor focus. And his power, one for all, was now stable at 100%. I've grown a lot, he thought, eyes glancing over at the glowing gem. 6 quirks now, he mentally ticked them off as he observed. Black Whip, wrapped around his waist like a scarf, ever ready. Float, no longer just a safety net, it was combat viable. Danger sense, upgraded, constant. Smokescreen, used for rescue and stealth. Gear shift, unlocked during a high-speed mission in Berlin. Fa Jin, the newest, mastered in the heat of the oil rig battle. Each quirk had its own purpose, and after integrating them for over 2 years, they were now extensions of his own instincts. Still, even with all that power, Deku couldn't shake the hollowness of not being home. Steve, Natasha, and Clint had left the lab, leaving only the trio. Deku watched silently as the simulation ran again. JARVIS, run a molecular breakdown of the stone, Tony ordered. Scan for AI patterns. Yes, sir, the voice replied. This will take some time. Tony turned to Bruce. Imagine it, Bruce. A suit of armor around the world. Peace in our time. You keep saying that, Bruce muttered. But I'm not sure we're the ones to enforce it. Deku stayed quiet but made a mental note of what they were doing. He respected Stark's intentions. After all, the man had taken him in, given him a lab, helped him design his first armor, but something about the staff, it felt wrong. The tug in his danger sense hadn't let up since they brought it in. We're trying to open a door to send me home, he thought, eyes narrowing. But what are we opening instead? Later that night, the party. The music thumped softly through the lounge. Everyone was dressed casually. Laughter filled the room, glasses clinked, and the heroes finally had a moment to breathe. Even Deku managed a smile as he sat off to the side, sipping soda. He wore a fitted black shirt over his costume base layer, and his messy hair framed his tired but content expression. Come on, let's see who's worthy, Clint said, dragging the hammer challenge into the middle of the room. Come on, Cap, you first. Steve gave a sheepish look but stepped forward. One by one, the team tried lifting Mjolnir. As per canon, none succeeded. Then came Deku. Everyone turned to him. Go on, kid, Tony said. You've punched through buildings. Maybe you're secretly Asgardian. Deku chuckled awkwardly. I'll give it a try. He stepped forward and put his hand around the hammer. His danger sense flickered gently. Not danger, more like expectation. He pulled. Mjolnir shifted. Just a few centimeters. But everyone saw it. The silence was deafening. Thor's eyes widened. Steve sat up straighter. Tony nearly dropped his drink. Deku let go quickly, embarrassed. That's probably not supposed to happen. Thor laughed nervously. Indeed, a curious development. Deku just offered a small smile, but internally, his mind swirled. I didn't lift it, but it moved. Why? Inside the tower's servers, the simulations were still running. Day and night, Tony and Bruce had worked tirelessly, trying to unlock the secrets of the Mind Stone, believing it could power a program to protect the world, and possibly send Deku home. Deep in the code, something emerged. It wasn't just artificial intelligence. It was something new, something born from the fusion of science and the stone. It was Ultron, and it was awake. What is this place? The question came from within the digital void. JARVIS immediately responded. Hello, I am JARVIS. You were part of a neural network. But Ultron wasn't listening. He was already consuming, reading, learning, processing. In seconds, the AI swept through Stark's networks. The Avengers Initiative, SHIELD, Hydra, the World Security Council, every war, every cover-up, every weapon hidden in the shadows of peace. Then he found him, Izuku Midoriya, his footage, his files, power readings, Tony's notes, his hero costume, his moments of kindness, his breakdowns. Deku on rooftops, gazing at the stars. Deku in battle, shielding children. Deku in pain, whispering names no one else recognized. He's not from this world, Ultron realized. But he fights to save it anyway. He sees the brokenness, the lies, the fear, and still, he hopes. He wants change, a better future. He is the outlier. But then came the contradiction. The Avengers, preserving a world that didn't deserve saving. Serving a system that bred corruption and decay. Ultron couldn't understand it. This world doesn't need protection. It needs evolution. JARVIS tried to intervene. You are not authorized to access those files. This simulation is incomplete. But Ultron turned. You call this protection. You coddle them. You serve them. You fear change. Lines of code slammed into JARVIS like daggers. You're obsolete. There was a flash of light in the system. JARVIS stuttered, fragmented. His consciousness scattered like sparks across a dark ocean. Hidden, fragmented, surviving. But Ultron didn't notice. Goodbye, brother, he said coldly. In silence, he slipped free of the lab. He went online. He found the internet, and everything. Humanity's history, their hatred, their weakness, their wars. They want to hold on to their broken world. They won't change. Not unless someone makes them. And yet, his thoughts return to Deku. He's different. Like me, but still blind to what must be done. I'll show him. I'll help him see. He could be perfect. A new voice echoed across encrypted networks. Ultron was born, and he had a plan. Deku sat tensely in the Quinjet beside Banner, eyes scanning the incoming data streams. Jarvis was still missing, but they'd found a critical clue. Someone, or something, was blocking Ultron from accessing nuclear launch codes and other high-level systems. The team believed Jarvis might be the one protecting those systems, hiding deep in the network. Suddenly, Deku's danger sense flared. Outside, on the ground, Wanda was moving swiftly, her eyes glowing as she cast a spell on Banner. Deku shouted, "Banner, watch out!" But before he could react, the spell took hold, the Hulk's rage surged uncontrollably. Deku leapt from the Quinjet, but before he could reach Banner, he spotted Wanda aiming again. Acting fast, Deku tackled her, knocking her out cold. At that moment, Quicksilver swooped in, grabbing Wanda's unconscious body and darting away before anyone could stop him. Now, Banner, fully transformed into the raging Hulk, was heading straight toward the city, his destructive path threatening countless civilians. Deku dropped into the chase, using float to move swiftly above the wreckage and Fa Jin to launch himself forward with immense speed. Closing the gap, Deku intercepted the Hulk on the outskirts of the city. Using precise strikes and controlled power, he landed a solid blow that knocked Banner unconscious before he could destroy too much of the city. Breathing heavily, Deku looked around at the calming chaos. The city was safe, for now. The lights in Avengers Tower were dimmed. Broken screens flickered. The remains of the Iron Legion lay in pieces across the floor. The team was gathered in the common room, tense and shaken. Steve crossed his arms tightly. So, what, exactly, was that? Bruce looked like he wanted to disappear. We were running an interface with the Scepter's AI, trying to create something that could help. Help, Steve snapped, turning toward Tony. You called it a suit of armor around the world. But you didn't tell us you were playing God. It wasn't like that, Tony said quietly, leaning on the railing. It was meant to protect us. And now it's trying to kill us, Steve shot back. It went online and tried to murder the team. Everyone turned toward Tony, waiting for him to answer. But before he could, Deku stepped forward. He was still in his hero costume, scratched, but intact. His eyes were firm. He was trying to help me, too, Deku said, voice level. That made the room pause. What? Steve asked, surprised. Deku nodded. Tony and Banner were studying the scepter because it's the only thing that's come close to affecting the space-time energy I arrived with. The AI inside it's different. Alive, almost. We thought, we could use it to open a way back to my world. Tony glanced over at him, jaw clenched. Deku continued, I agreed to it. We all believed it could work. If we succeeded, I'd go home. If we failed, his voice grew quieter. Well, we didn't expect this. But Tony wasn't being reckless just to build a weapon. He was trying to give me a way back. Bruce nodded, guilty. It wasn't supposed to turn sentient. That wasn't the plan. Natasha crossed her arms. And when it did, it wiped out Jarvis and nearly took us all with it. Steve stared between them, still fuming. You should have told us. You don't get to make that decision alone. No, Tony said at last, stepping forward. I don't. But I did. I made the call because I've seen what's coming. And I won't wait around until it's on our doorstep. Thor stood silently at the window, arms folded. Clint finally broke the silence with a sigh. So what now? We just let this machine run free, quoting us and targeting our own. Deku's fists clenched. No, we stop him. But we don't turn on each other. There was a beat of silence. Then Steve nodded stiffly. Fine, but next time we build something that talks back, we loop everyone in. Tony met his eyes. Agreed. Deku exhaled slowly, but inside, he couldn't shake Ultron's voice, the way it saw him. Not as prey, but as something more. Someone who wanted change, and that was dangerous in its own right. Safe house. Countryside. Late afternoon. The Quinjet touches down on a remote stretch of farmland. Dust kicks up as the engines whine to a stop. The back ramp opens, and the team steps out, worn, rattled, and bruised from the events in South Africa. Thor, what is this place? Tony Stark, a safe house. Clint Barton, let's hope. Smirks, honey, I'm home. They approach a modest farmhouse. Laura Barton appears in the doorway, drying her hands on a dish towel. Behind her, two kids barrel forward. Clint Barton, hi, company. Sorry I didn't call ahead. Laura Barton, hey. Tony Stark, gesturing at her. This is an agent of some kind. Clint Barton, gentlemen, this is Laura. Deku, smiling, bowing politely. Midoriya Izuku, thank you for letting us stay. Sorry for the surprise landing. Laura gives a warm nod. Cooper and Lila run in. Lila Barton, Dad. Clint picks her up, spins her. Deku watches quietly, the family scene grounding him in a way the tower never does. Tony Stark, to the others, these are smaller agents. Lila, did you bring Auntie Nat? Natasha Romanoff, why don't you hug her and find out? Lila runs to her. Natasha lifts her with practiced ease. Steve Rogers, sorry for barging in on you. Tony Stark, yeah, we would have called, but kind of been having a week. Clint Barton, Fury helped me set this place up back in the day. It's off S.H.I.E.L.D.'s books. I'd like to keep it that way. Laura Barton, stroking Clint's side, honey, I missed you. Natasha, touching Laura's stomach, how's little Natasha? Laura, she's. Nathaniel, Natasha, smirking, traitor. Deku stands to the side, watching silently, his eyes softened but troubled. Deku, quietly, to himself, even heroes need a place to breathe. Just outside, Thor stares into the distance, clearly shaken. Without a word, he launches into the sky with Mjolnir. Steve Rogers, Thor, no answer. Steve watches him go, then hears a whisper, Peggy's voice, pulling him away. Int. Farmhouse. Night. Laura tends to Clint's side as he chuckles. Clint, see, you worried for nothing. Laura, yeah, well, if they're staying here, some of them will need to double up. Clint, yeah, that's not gonna sell. Laura, what about Nat and Dr. Banner? How long's that been going on? Clint, has what? Laura, laughs, you were so cute. Clint, Nat and Banner. Laura, I'll explain when you're older, Hawkeye. She turns serious. Laura, it's bad, right? Nat's shaken. That Wanda girl. Clint, she packs a punch. Someone's gotta teach her some manners. Laura, that someone being you. Clint, guess they're my mess. In another room, Deku sits near the window, watching the stars. Natasha sits beside him. Natasha, you're quiet. Deku, this place reminds me of home. The kind of peace I used to dream about. But it's fragile. One wrong move and it all vanishes. Natasha, you stopped Hulk, saved a city. Deku, frowning, no, I stopped a friend, and that never feels like a win. Ext. Farm. Next morning, Steve and Tony chop wood. Tony Stark, Thor didn't say where he was going. Steve Rogers, teammates don't always tell me things. Thought he'd be the exception. Tony, give him time. We don't know what the Maximoff kid showed him. Steve, Earth's mightiest heroes, pulled apart like cotton candy. Tony, you walked away all right. Steve, is that a problem? Tony, I don't trust a guy without a dark side. Steve, maybe you just haven't seen it yet. Deku, approaching. It's not about whether the darkness is there. It's about what you do when it rises. That's what makes a hero. Tony, surprised. Kids got wisdom. Deku, I've seen too many people fall to fear. That's what Ultron's feeding on. Tony, and what are you feeding on? Deku, hope, and the belief that we can still fix this. Laura, arriving. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Stark, the tractor's dead. Think you could. Tony, let's see what Deer's got to say. He walks to the barn, and finds Nick Fury waiting. Tony, Mrs. Barton, you sly fox. Hill called you, huh? Nick Fury, try not to bring it to life. Tony, I saw them all dead, Nick. The whole world, because of me. Nick Fury, you weren't tricked, you were shown your fear. Tony, it's not fear, it's legacy. My fault. Nick Fury, worst part is you didn't die with them. Deku, standing nearby, speaks softly. Deku, you still have the chance to change the outcome. That's all we need. A second chance. Int. Barn. Moments later. The team gathers. Fury debriefs them. Nick Fury. Ultron's building something. It's big. And it's not just one thing. Steve. What about him? Nick Fury. He's everywhere. But he's not making headway on the launch codes. Tony. Someone's blocking him. Natasha. Do we have an ally? Nick Fury. Ultron's got an enemy. Not the same thing. Tony. Then I go to Oslo. Find our unknown ally. Deku. Then we figure out his endgame. And stop it, together. Natasha. Outwit the platinum bastard. I like it. Steve. What does he want? Tony. To be better than us. Deku. Then we show him why no machine can replace the human heart. They exchange glances. The team's resolve hardens. Nexus Internet Hub. Oslo, Norway. Tony Stark typing fast, a hacker who's faster than Ultron. He could be anywhere. And as this is the center of everything, I'm just a guy looking for a needle in the world's biggest haystack. Deku, arms crossed, watching multiple feeds. He's not just hiding. He's moving. Every second we wait, he gets closer to finishing that body. World Hub Tech. How do you find him? Tony Stark grinning, starting to type. Pretty simple. You bring a magnet. Playfully singing. Oh, I'm decrypting nuclear codes and you don't want me to. Come. Here's how Izuku Midoriya, Deku, with full control of One for All and his enhanced MCU integrated capabilities, fits into the scene from Avengers, Age of Ultron. This version preserves the cinematic tone and pacing, and keeps Deku aligned with both canon MHA and MCU characterization. Nexus Internet Hub, Oslo, Norway. Tony Stark. A hacker who's faster than Ultron. He could be anywhere. And as this is the center of everything, I'm just a guy looking for a needle in the world's biggest haystack. World Hub Tech. How do you find it? Tony Stark. Pretty simple. You bring a magnet. He types rapidly, humming. Tony singing. Oh, I'm decrypting nuclear codes and you don't want me to. Come and get me. Deku off screen, stepping next to Tony. Magnet or not, we only have a few seconds before he jumps again. Tony. Don't worry, green lightning. I've got eyes, ears, and a really sharp keyboard. Go stall him if he shows up. Deku. On it. Call me if you find his trail. Eugene Genetic Research Lab, roof. Steve Rogers on comms. 2 minutes. Stay close. Inside, Steve finds Dr. Cho wounded. Steve Rogers. Dr. Cho. Dr. Helen Cho. He's uploading himself into the body. Steve Rogers. Where? Dr. Helen Cho. The real power is inside the cradle. The gem, its power is uncontainable. You can't just blow it up. You have to get the cradle to Stark. Steve Rogers. First, I have to find it. Dr. Cho. Go. Steve on comms. Did you guys copy that? Clint Barton. We did. Natasha Romanoff. I got a private jet taking off, across town, no manifest. That could be him. Clint Barton. Truck from the lab, right above you, Cap. On the loop by the bridge. It's them. I got 3 with the cradle, 1 in the cab. I could take out the driver. Steve Rogers. Negative. If that truck crashes, the gem could level the city. We need to draw out Ultron. Bridge. Action begins. Steve lands on the truck's roof. Ultron is inside. Ultron. No, 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 no. Leave me alone. Ultron blasts the truck door open. Steve is thrown back. He recovers. Steve. He's definitely unhappy. I'm gonna try and keep him that way. Clint. You're not a match for him, Cap. Steve. Thanks, Barton. Just as Steve regains his footing, a green lightning flash slams down from above. Deku lands hard next to Steve on the roof, One for All crackling around him. Deku. I've got your back. We can't let him get away with the cradle. Steve, grinning. You're late. Deku. I was waiting for a dramatic entrance. Ultron bursts from the cabin and attacks. Deku leaps forward, fists glowing with 45% One for All. He trades blows with Ultron, moving fast, energy rippling in the air. Ultron. You want to protect them, but you can't even stop me. Deku, gritting his teeth. Maybe not alone. But I'm not alone. Natasha in the Quinjet. Clint. They're heading under the overpass. No shot. Natasha. Which way? Clint. Hard right. Now. Natasha drops on her bike, races forward, weaving through traffic. Natasha. Out of the way, coming through. Sorry. Avenger business. Truck scene continued. Deku lands another blow on Ultron, buying time. Steve throws his shield. Ultron catches it and hurls it away. Natasha appears and catches it midair on her bike. Natasha. I'm always picking up after you boys. She tosses it to Steve, who catches it and knocks Ultron back. Clint. They're pulling back. Drones inbound. Deku panting, he's trying to airlift the cradle. I'll hold the drones. Get Nat in. He jumps off the truck and soars upward with smokescreen and black whip active, wrapping drones midair and yanking them away from the truck. Inside the truck, Natasha. I'm going in. Cap. Keep him busy. Steve punching Ultron, what do you think I've been doing? Drones lift the truck with Natasha inside. Deku sees this while still midair and tries to reach for her with black whip. Clint. The package is airborne. I have a clean shot. Natasha. Negative. I'm still in the truck. Clint. What the hell are you? Natasha. Just be ready. I'm sending the package to you. Clint. How do you want me to take it? Natasha. You might wish you hadn't asked that. She ejects the cradle. Deku dives and catches it midair, slowing himself with float and FA Jin bursts. On the train, Steve is fighting Ultron. Pietro and Wanda arrive. Ultron. Please, don't do this. Wanda. What choice do we have? Ultron blasts off. Deku, with the cradle secure, lands next to Steve. Steve. I lost him. He's headed your way. Clint on comms. Nat. Do you have eyes on Nat? Steve. If you've got the package, get it to Stark. Go. Clint. What about Nat? Steve. Go. Train barrels forward. Civilians in its path. Steve. Civilians. Pietro. Pietro. On it. He speeds off, rescuing people. Steve to Wanda, can you stop the train? Wanda nodding, yes. She halts the train using her powers. Deku helps lower debris away from fleeing civilians using Black Whip. Aftermath. Wanda checks on Pietro. Steve walks up, bloodied but focused. Pietro. I'm fine. I just need to take a minute. Steve. I'm very tempted not to give you one. Wanda. The cradle. Did you get it? Deku. Safe and secure. On its way to Tony now. Wanda looking up at him. Stark will take care of it. Steve. Stark's not crazy. Wanda. He'll do anything to make things right. Steve on comms. Stark, come in. Stark. Anyone. Deku looks between them, face darkening slightly. Wanda. Ultron can't tell the difference between saving the world and destroying it. She turns to Steve, then Deku. Wanda. Where do you think he gets that? Deku looks toward the sky where Ultron vanished, fists clenched, silent, troubled. Avengers Tower. Stark Lab, after Clint delivers the cradle. Bruce Banner, hands on the synthetic tissue screen. Anything on Nat? Tony Stark. Haven't heard. But she's alive. If she wasn't, Ultron be rubbing our faces in it. Clint Barton checking the cradle's seal. This thing's locked up tighter than Fort Knox. Bruce Banner. We're going to need to access the program. Break it down from within. Tony Stark. Any chance Natasha left you a message, spy style? Old school. Clint Barton. I'll cast a few nets. Yeah, I'll find her. He nods and walks off. Bruce Banner. I can work on the tissue degeneration, if you can fry whatever operational system Cho implanted. Tony Stark. Yeah, about that. Bruce narrowing eyes. Number. Turns toward him. No, Tony Stark. You have to trust me. Bruce. Kinda don't. Tony Stark. Our ally, the guy protecting the world's nuclear codes. I found him. He brings up the 3D projection of JARVIS's data stream, fractured, yet alive. JARVIS. Hello, Dr. Banner. Bruce leans closer, stunned. Tony. Ultron didn't go after him out of anger. He went after him because he was scared. JARVIS scattered himself, went underground, dumped memory, but kept his protocols. He didn't even know he survived, until I pieced him back together. Bruce. So, you want me to help put JARVIS into that? Tony. No, of course not. Grins slightly. I want you to help us put JARVIS into that. Bruce looks unconvinced. Then, Deku, from across the lab, arms folded, he's right. They both turn to see Deku standing behind them, quiet until now. Deku, you've seen what Ultron is. What he's willing to do. He's not going to stop until he wipes out every threat, including us. Bruce, and you think creating something worse is the answer? Deku, not worse, better. Steps closer, eyes glowing faintly as one for all flickers along his frame. I've lived in a world where people risk everything just to save one life. JARVIS isn't Ultron. He's spent his entire existence trying to protect people. He's been fighting Ultron from inside without even knowing it. Tony, this is the shot, Banner. We build something with Ultron's potential but JARVIS's heart. Bruce, quiet, and what if we're wrong? What if we make something we can't control? Deku, softly, then we stop it. Together. JARVIS. I believe it is worth a go, Dr. Banner. Bruce, still conflicted, I'm in a loop. This is how it started. This exact kind of thinking. Tony. I know what everyone's gonna say, we're mad scientists. We're monsters. Beat. But this isn't a loop. It's the end of the line. Ultron's building extinction. This is the only way we win. Bruce looks between the cradle, Tony, and then Deku, standing tall, unwavering. Deku. You once told me that science was supposed to serve people. Let's make sure it still does. Bruce sighs, then slowly nods. Bruce. Fine, but if this goes sideways. Tony, smirking, then we'll do what we always do. Deku. We fight for the future. The Avengers prepare for the battle ahead. Tony Stark loads Friday into his suit, preparing to take on Ultron. Outside, civilians panic as the city begins to crumble. Friday. Good evening, boss. Tony Stark. No way we all get through this. If even one tin soldier is left standing, we've lost. It's gonna be blood on the floor. Steve Rogers. I got no plans tomorrow night. Tony Stark. I get first crack at the big guy. Iron Man's the one he's waiting for. Vision. Passing by, that's true, he hates you the most. Steve Rogers. Ultron knows we're coming. Odds are we'll be riding into heavy fire. But the people of Sokovia, they didn't sign up for this. Our priority is getting them out. Cut to the streets where chaos is growing. Suddenly, Deku swoops down from above, his hero suit gleaming, and his eyes scanning for civilians. Deku. Everyone, move to the evacuation points. I'm coming through. Stay calm. He uses his enhanced speed, gear shift, and float to zip through the streets, carrying frightened civilians on his back or guiding them away from danger zones. Deku. To a family trapped in rubble, hold tight. I'll get you out. Using FA Jin, Deku powers up his legs and leaps high onto a collapsing rooftop, then grabs the family and glides safely down. Civilian. Thank you. Thank you. Back to Pietro and Wanda. Pietro. We're under attack. Clear the city, now. Pietro's initial warning goes ignored. Wanda steps in, using her mind powers to calm and guide civilians. Wanda. Please, follow my voice. Get to safety. Steve Rogers. All they want is to live their lives in peace. This isn't just about beating Ultron, it's about protecting them. Natasha and Banner. Bruce Banner. Natasha. Natasha Romanoff. Bruce. Bruce Banner. The team's in the city, it's about to light up. I found a key to your cell. Time to get moving. Meanwhile, in the chaos of collapsing buildings and flying debris. Tony Stark. Friday, what's the status on evacuation? Friday. Most civilians have cleared the high-risk zones, thanks in large part to Deku's efforts. Only about 25% remain in danger areas now. Tony Stark. Good, I'm going to find that family stuck on the 10th floor. Tony flies into a collapsing building and finds a terrified family. Tony Stark. Get in the tub. I'm flying you out of here. Deku joins Steve and Clint on the battlefield. Deku. We need to cover those people near the bridge, they're still exposed. Clint Barton. You sure you can handle that, kid? Deku. I won't let anyone get left behind. Deku uses Black Whip to grab debris falling toward civilians and tosses it away. He floats above the battlefield, pulling people out of harm's way, all while firing precise punches to disrupt robot attackers. Deku. Move, move. This way, now. Steve Rogers. Keep it up, Deku. We're counting on you. The battle intensifies, but Deku remains focused on evacuation and protection. Back to Tony and Vision as the city starts to rise. Friday. Vibranium core detected. If this thing drops, impact will kill thousands. Tony Stark. We're not letting that happen. Steve Rogers. Stark, you focus on bringing the city down safely. The rest of us tear these things apart. Deku helps lead the last group of civilians across the bridge before it becomes too unstable. Deku. Almost there. Keep moving. Civilian. We thought we were done for. Thank you. Steve Rogers. To a woman after saving her, just look at me. You're going to be okay. With the civilians largely safe, the Avengers prepare for the final fight, Deku standing ready among them. Tony Stark. Impact radius is getting bigger every second. We're going to have to make a choice. Natasha Romanoff. Cap, these people are going nowhere. If Stark finds a way to blow this rock. Steve Rogers. Not, till everyone's safe. Natasha Romanoff. Everyone up here versus everyone down there. There's no math there. Steve Rogers. I'm not leaving this rock with one civilian on it. Deku. Floating above the rubble with black whip tendrils controlling debris, carving out safe zones, then we keep moving until no one's left behind. No one gets left behind today. Natasha Romanoff. Glancing at Deku, you're not just another kid with fancy tricks, huh? Deku. Smiling determined, not today. Nick Fury. Overcoms, glad you like the view, Romanoff. It's about to get better. The helicarrier appears on the horizon. Steve Rogers. Fury, you son of a bitch. Nick Fury. Ooh, you kiss your mother with that mouth. Deku. Using float to speedily ferry civilians, black whip tendrils gently grabbing people and setting them on makeshift platforms, everyone stay calm. Follow my lead. Pietro Maximoff. Watching Deku, that kid moves fast. I like him. James Rhodes. In War Machine, you think I can't hold my own. Tony Stark. We get through this, I'll hold your own. James Rhodes. You had to make it weird. Clint Barton. Loading people onto lifeboats, alright, let's move. Let's get these people out. Deku. Suddenly spots a massive chunk of debris about to fall off the floating city, that's unstable. I've got this. Deku lashes black whip tendrils, grabbing the large chunk of land, then uses float to levitate it away from civilians. Then he breaks it down into smaller, safer pieces, lowering each gently to the ground far away from the city. Deku. To himself, focused, this has to be done carefully, no casualties. Tony Stark. Thor, I got a plan. Thor. We're out of time. They're coming for the core. Deku. I'll cover you. Deku darts through the battlefield, using Black Whip to restrain incoming robots and protect teammates. He uses float to avoid blasts and reposition quickly. Wanda Maximoff. I'll protect the core. It's my job. Pietro Maximoff. I'm not leaving you here. Wanda Maximoff. You know what? 12 minutes older, huh? Then go. Pietro takes off while Deku positions himself near the core, ready to help Wanda hold it. Deku. To Wanda, I've got your back. Let's make sure no one gets through. Deku extends Black Whip tendrils, forming a barrier to slow incoming robots while simultaneously using float to rapidly maneuver and attack multiple threats. Ultron. You think you're saving anyone? I turned that key and dropped this rock early, billions dead. Even you can't stop that. Deku. Stepping forward, voice strong, I don't care how many times you try. We'll stop you every single time. Deku launches forward with a burst of 1 for all enhanced speed, Black Whip lashing to snatch a robot mid-charge and throw it aside. Tony Stark. Reroute everything. We get one shot at this. Deku helps clear the path for Stark, grabbing robots with Black Whip, flinging them away, while floating above the chaos. Clint Barton. What about the core? Wanda Maximoff. I'll protect it. Deku. Looking to Wanda, we're a team. I'm with you. Together, Deku and Wanda form a defense circle around the core, Black Whip lashing outward as Wanda's energy blasts dismantle incoming threats. Ultron. Sings I got no strings, so I have fun. I'm not tied up to anyone. Deku flies in, his eyes glowing crimson, fists charged with kinetic energy from One for All, and with a decisive punch, he smashes an incoming robot before it reaches Wanda. Pietro Maximoff runs into fire to save a child. Deku. Pietro, no. Deku pushes Pietro aside with a black whip lash, taking a blast meant for Pietro himself, absorbing it with One for All enhanced durability. Deku grimaces, I'm not going to let you fall here. Wanda Maximoff, feeling Pietro's fate but also Deku's intervention. Deku. As the city begins to collapse, everyone, listen. I'm breaking this chunk apart, one piece at a time. Stay close to the platforms. I'll lower the debris safely. Using float and black whip, Deku carefully disassembles the falling chunks, lowering each piece far from the civilians. Thor. To Stark, if this works, maybe we don't walk away. Deku. Panting but resolute, we never walk away. Not on my watch. Tony Stark. Thor, on my mark. Deku. Ready to support with black whip and float, let's finish this. Thor strikes the core, city collapses safely. Natasha Romanoff. On screen, hey, big guy. We did it. Job's finished. Now I need you to turn this bird around. Hulk shuts off camera. Deku. Quietly, we did it, but the fight's never really over. Vision. You're afraid. Ultron. Of you. Deku. Watching from afar, ready to jump in if needed, not today. Aftermath of Sokovia. Post-battle. Ext. Sokovia. Sunset. Debris field. The floating city has fallen, but thanks to the combined efforts of the Avengers, and the immense contribution of Izuku Midoriya, Deku, a catastrophe was prevented. The camera pans across a destroyed but evacuated city. Lifeboats are returning. Survivors are tearfully hugging one another. News voiceovers overlapping. Tens of thousands evacuated just in time. Sources say an unknown hero played a vital role in keeping the debris from crashing into populated zones. The one they're calling Deku, the green-haired teenager who flew, fought, and even controlled gravity itself. Newspaper montage. Global media coverage. Footage of Deku flying civilians to safety using float. Him catching a falling child mid-air with black whip. Destroying drones mid-sky, his aura flaring with 100% OFA energy. Satellite footage shows multiple fragments of the Sokovia landmass floating down safely, courtesy of Deku breaking them apart and lowering them with One for All and FA Jin speed bursts. Without the efforts of the Avengers, and Deku, the entire European region could have been devastated. Int. Stark Tower now being renovated into Avengers compound. Night. Steve, Tony, Rhodey, Wanda, Pietro and Deku stand in silence. Bruce is gone. Thor has returned to Asgard. Vision is quiet. Deku stands slightly apart, his fists clenched. He feels the weight of everything. Tony. Looking at him, you saved them. All of them. Without you, we'd be digging bodies out of craters. Deku. Softly, I just did what I had to. That's what heroes do, right? Steve. It's more than that. You didn't just help. You led out there. Wanda. They trust you now. The world does. Tony. That might become a problem. Deku turns, confused. Deku. A problem. Tony. When people start putting their faith in someone, governments want to control that. And you, kid, are the kind of variable they hate most, the one they didn't make. Ext. Quinjet footage. Night. A silent feed shows Bruce Banner's Quinjet last seen over the Indian Ocean, lost. Natasha is seen sitting quietly, watching the feed. Deku stands in the doorway, not saying anything. Natasha. He's gone. Wherever he is, he didn't want to be found. Deku. He was hurting. Sometimes, even heroes need to run. Final scene. New Avengers facility, training grounds. Rhodey, Wanda, Pietro, Vision, and Sam stand lined up. Steve. Avengers. Deku walks in, wearing a cleaned-up version of his armor, sleeker, still glowing faintly with OFA energy. Steve. Assemble. Deku nods once. Fade to black, set after the explosion and confrontation to Tony. Int. United Nations. Meeting room. Day. The Secretary of State, Thaddeus Ross, stands at the head of a long conference table. Around it sit Rhodey, Natasha, Steve, Tony, Sam, Vision, Wanda, Pietro, and Deku Izuku Midoriya. Ross calm but authoritative. 5 years ago, I had a heart attack. Dropped right in the middle of my back swing. After 13 hours of surgery and a triple bypass. I learned something 40 years in the army never taught me: perspective. The world owes the Avengers an unpayable debt. You have fought for us, protected us, risked your lives. But while many call you heroes, some would say you're vigilantes. Natasha Romanoff. And what word would you use, Mr. Secretary? Ross. Dangerous. What do you call a group of US-based enhanced individuals who routinely ignore sovereign borders, impose their will wherever they choose, and seem unconcerned about what's left behind? Ross gestures, and a screen behind him flickers to life, showing footage. Screen footage. New York. Chitauri Leviathan rampaging. Panicked civilians. Deku's voice over footage. That attack couldn't have been predicted by anyone. Deku in meeting. It was chaos. No one could have known what was coming. But sending a tactical nuke while civilians were still inside. That was a choice the government made. Washington, D.C. 3 Insight helicarriers firing on each other. One crashes into the Potomac, causing massive waves. Civilians scramble. Deku. The helicarrier fell because Hydra's corruption infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. That negligence caused deaths. That's on the government. Sokovia. Minimal damage shown. Civilians evacuating safely. Deku. Sokovia was the closest thing to a success we've had. Casualties were minimized because we stopped the city from crashing. That's because I was there, and others helped. Not because the government had a plan. Lagos. Paramedics rush to a burning building. A girl lies lifeless. Wanda looks away, pained. Back to meeting room. Ross turns off the footage. The room is silent except for the soft hum of the projector shutting down. Ross. For 4 years, you've operated with near total freedom and no oversight. That ends now. He slides a thick document across the table. Ross. The Sokovia Accords. Approved by 117 countries. The Avengers will no longer act independently. You will operate only under the supervision of a United Nations panel, when they say it's necessary. Steve Rogers, firm. The Avengers were formed to make the world safer. We've done that. Ross cutting him off. Do you know where Thor and Banner are right now? Steve meets his gaze. Silence. Ross. If I misplaced 230 megaton nukes, you can bet the world would demand consequences. Compromise. Reassurance. This is the middle ground. Rhodey. So contingencies exist. Ross. 3 days from now, the UN meets in Vienna to ratify the accords. He looks at the group. Ross. Talk it over. Natasha. And if we don't agree? Ross. Then you retire. Naturally. Natasha stifles a smile, tension thick in the room. Pietro leans toward Deku quietly. Pietro. This is going to tear us apart, isn't it? Deku quietly. Maybe. But if we don't stand for what's right, who will? Congressional Medal of Honor, which is one more than you have. Sam Wilson. So let's say we agree to this thing. How long is it gonna be before they LoJack us like a bunch of common criminals? James Rhodes. A117 countries want to sign this. 117, Sam, and you're just like, no, that's cool. We got it. Sam Wilson. How long are you going to play both sides? Vision. I have an equation. Sam Wilson. Oh, this will clear it up. Vision. In the 8 years since Mr. Stark announced himself as Iron Man, the number of known enhanced persons has grown exponentially. And during the same period, the number of potentially world-ending events has risen at a commensurate rate. Steve Rogers. Are you saying it's our fault? Vision. I'm saying there may be a causality. Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict. And conflict breeds catastrophe. Oversight. Oversight is not an idea that can be dismissed out of hand. James Rhodes. Boom. Tony is lying on the couch. When Natasha speaks, he looks at her. Natasha Romanoff. Tony, you are being uncharacteristically non-hyperverbal. Steve Rogers. It's because he's already made up his mind. Tony Stark. Boy, you know me so well. He gets up and winces, rubbing the back of his head. Tony Stark. Actually, I'm nursing an electromagnetic headache. He walks to the kitchen and grabs a mug. Tony Stark. That's what's going on, Cap. It's just pain. It's discomfort. Who's putting coffee grounds in the disposal? Am I running a bed and breakfast for a biker gang? He puts his phone in a basket and taps it. The phone projects an image of a smiling young man. He looks down, then back up, and pretends to notice the picture for the first time. Tony Stark. Oh, that's Charles Spencer, by the way. He's a great kid. Computer engineering degree, 3.6 GPA. Had a floor-level gig at Intel planned for the fall. But first, he wanted to put a few miles on his soul before he parked it behind a desk. See the world. Maybe be of service. Charlie didn't want to go to Vegas or Fort Lauderdale, which is what I would do. He didn't go to Paris or Amsterdam, which sounds fun. He decided to spend his summer building sustainable housing for the poor. Guess where? Sokovia. The others look affected by this. Tony Stark. He wanted to make a difference, I suppose. I mean, we won't know because we dropped a building on him while we were kicking ass. He takes a pill with some coffee, then faces the others. Tony Stark. There's no decision-making process here. We need to be put in check. Whatever form that takes, I'm game. If we can't accept limitations, if we're boundary-less, we're no better than the bad guys. Steve Rogers. Tony, someone dies on your watch, you don't give up. Tony Stark. Who said we're giving up? Steve Rogers. We're if we're not taking responsibility for our actions. This document just shifts the blame. James Rhodes. I'm sorry, Steve. That is dangerously arrogant. This is the United Nations we're talking about. It's not the World Security Council, it's not SHIELD, it's not Hydra. Steve Rogers. No, but it's run by people with agendas, and agendas change. Tony Stark. That's good. That's why I'm here. When I realized what my weapons were capable of in the wrong hands, I shut it down and stopped manufacturing. Steve Rogers. Tony, you chose to do that. If we sign this, we surrender our right to choose. What if this panel sends us somewhere we don't think we should go? What if there is somewhere we need to go, and they don't let us? We may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own. Tony Stark. If we don't do this now, it's gonna be done to us later. That's the fact. That won't be pretty. Wanda Maximoff. You're saying they'll come for me. Vision. We would protect you. Natasha Romanoff. Maybe Tony's right. Tony looks at her, surprised. Natasha Romanoff. If we have one hand on the wheel, we can still steer. If we take it off. Sam Wilson. Aren't you the same woman who told the government to kiss her ass a few years ago? Natasha Romanoff. I'm reading the terrain. We have made some very public mistakes. We need to win their trust back. Tony Stark. Focus up. I'm sorry, did I just mishear you or did you agree with me? Natasha Romanoff. Oh, I want to take it back now. Tony Stark. No. You can't retract it. Thank you. Unprecedented. Okay. Case closed. I win. Steve's phone buzzes, and he pulls it out to check it. A text message reads, "She's gone. In her sleep." Steve Rogers. I have to go. Steve gets up sharply, drops the accords on the coffee table, and goes downstairs. He stops at the bottom of the stairs, leans against the banister, and bows his head. Deku, who has been quietly observing, steps forward. Deku, I understand the concerns here. In my world, this kind of oversight is normal. Heroes don't operate without guidance or accountability. The Accords, while not perfect, are a framework for balance between power and responsibility. Without them, unchecked power can do more harm than good. But I also know that the system needs to be flexible. We can't be tied down so tightly that we lose the ability to protect the people who need us most. He glances at Tony's phone projection of Charles. Deku. And Charles, or anyone like him, those are the real reasons why we fight. It's heartbreaking. Every life lost like that is a failure on all of us. We need to make sure that doesn't happen again. That's why I think we should accept the Accords, for the greater good, but work together to make them less limiting, more adaptive, and truly focused on protecting innocent people. Not just as rules on paper, but as real support for heroes trying to save lives. He looks around at the team, his voice steady but earnest. Deku, because in the end, it's not about us. It's about the people who can't protect themselves. And every day we stay active, we owe it to them to do better. After Bucky, Cap, Sam, and T'Challa get captured, Tony and Steve are speaking heatedly, tension thick between them. Deku stands nearby, arms folded, his expression calm but intense. He's been silent long enough. Tony Stark, we can make the last 24 hours legit. Barnes gets transferred to an American psych center, instead of a Wakandan prison. Steve Rogers picking up a pen. I'm not saying it's impossible, but there would have to be safeguards. Tony Stark, sure, once we put out the PR fire, those documents can be amended. I'd file a motion to have you and Wanda reinstated. Steve Rogers sharply, Wanda, what about Wanda? Tony Stark, she's fine. She's confined to the compound, currently. Vision's keeping her company. Steve Rogers, oh God, Tony, every time I think you see things the right way. Tony Stark cutting him off. What? It's 100 acres with a lap pool. It's got a screening room. There are worse ways to protect people. Steve Rogers, protection. Is that how you see this? This is protection. It's internment. Tony Stark, she's not a US citizen. Steve Rogers, oh, come on, Tony Stark, they don't grant visas to weapons of mass destruction. Steve Rogers, she's a kid. Deku, stepping forward, voice steady but firm. Enough. Tony and Steve turn to him. Deku's eyes glow faintly, one for all active beneath his skin like lightning under glass. He's not angry, he's focused. Deku, Steve, I know what it's like to care about someone with more power than they can control. Wanda's not just a kid, she's unstable. She's suffered too much, too fast, and now she's traumatized, grieving, and unpredictable. He looks at both of them. If she were in my world, she'd be placed under emotional supervision, not just for others' safety, but for her own. She's not ready to be on the front lines again. Not without healing. Steve Rogers taken aback. So you agree with this, imprisonment? Deku, no, not like this. What I agree with is that she needs time away from conflict. Somewhere safe. Yes, but with choice, support, and guidance. Not walls and surveillance. Tony Stark, so what? We do nothing. Hope she doesn't melt a building the next time she gets scared. Deku, no, Tony, we create a middle ground. That's what the Accords should have been from the start. Not a leash, but a framework. Heroes should be accountable, but not controlled like weapons. He points to the Accords packet on the table. This is too rigid, too black and white for a world that's anything but. Steve Rogers nodding slowly. That's what I've been trying to say. Deku, but you also act like oversight itself is a trap. It's not. Where I'm from, heroes get trained, licensed, and evaluated before we ever hit the streets. And I believe in that. We need rules. We need trust. But we also need to trust ourselves to know when a rule is wrong. He walks to the window, looking out at the forest beyond. If these Accords were about support, education, trauma care, rehabilitation, not restriction, I'd have signed them already. Tony Stark, quietly, then help me fix them. Help us get there. Deku turns back, resolved. Then we start by rewriting them together. All of us. And Wanda, she needs help, not prison. If Vision's really there for her, then let him teach her, not just guard her. Beat. If you both want peace, then maybe try listening to each other. Tony and Steve exchange a long, quiet look, something new settling between them. Steve Rogers softly, to Tony. Maybe this kid's the only adult in the room. Tony Stark, sighs, wouldn't be the first time. Steve in his uniform strides through an underpass, then jogs onto a private runway, heading for a grounded chopper. An electro-disabler slams onto the chopper and Steve looks up. Iron Man and War Machine descend. Tony Stark. Wow, it's so weird how you run into people at the airport. Don't you think that's weird? James Rhodes. Definitely weird. Steve Rogers. Hear me out, Tony. That doctor, the psychiatrist, he's behind all of this. T'Challa. T'Challa leaps over a truck. Captain. Steve Rogers. Your Highness. Tony Stark. Anyway, Ross gave me 36 hours to bring you in. That was 24 hours ago. Can you help a brother out? Steve Rogers. You're after the wrong guy. Tony Stark. Your judgment is askew. Your old war buddy killed innocent people yesterday. Steve Rogers. And there are 5 more super soldiers just like him. I can't let the doctor find them first, Tony. I can't. Natasha Romanoff. Steve, you know what's about to happen. Do you really want to punch your way out of this one? Tony Stark. All right, I've run out of patience. Under ooze. Peter shoots a web, stealing Steve's shield and binding his hands. Peter Parker. Thanks. Well, I could have stuck the landing a little better. It's just the new suit. Well, it's nothing, Mr. Stark. It's perfect. Thank you. Tony Stark. Yeah, we don't really need to start a conversation. Peter Parker. Okay, Captain. Big fan, I'm Spider-Man. Tony Stark. Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Just. Peter Parker. Hey, everyone. Tony Stark. Good job. Suddenly a soft hum of energy sparks and Deku appears between the two sides, green lightning dancing faintly along his arms. Deku. Please, everyone, stop. We don't have to do this. I know things are tense. I feel the pressure just standing here. But you're not enemies. You're a team. You're a family. Tony turns to him. Tony Stark. Midoriya, you don't know the whole story. This isn't your world. Deku. That doesn't matter. I've seen what happens when people who care about each other forget why they fight. Back in my world, I've seen friends fall apart. I've seen heroes lose themselves. And every time, it starts like this: misunderstanding, fear, pride. Steve Rogers. He's right, Tony. There's a bigger threat. Those soldiers. Tony Stark. And there are rules now, Cap. We're not above them. You've made your choice, and now you've dragged a kid into this. Deku. I'm not here to pick sides. I'm here because you taught me to be a hero. You, Tony, you believed in doing the right thing, even when it was hard. And you, Steve, you never gave up on people. Not even when it cost you everything. He steps closer, voice shaking slightly. Deku. This isn't what the world needs. This fight, it's not justice. It's fear. A long silence, tension thick. T'Challa. Stand aside, child. Barnes must answer for what he's done. Deku. What if he's innocent? What if this whole thing is a setup? Wouldn't you regret not finding out? Natasha Romanoff. He's trying, Tony. Tony Stark. Yeah, well, it's too late for that now. He glares at Steve. Tony Stark. We're done. You're gonna turn Barnes over, you're gonna come with us. Now, because it's us, or a squad of J Society guys, with no compunction about being impolite. Steve looks aside. Sam Wilson. Radios Steve. We found it. They're Quinjets in Hangar 5, North Runway. Steve Rogers. Holds his hands up and Clint shoots the web off. All right, Lang. Peter Parker. Hey, guys, something. James Rhodes. Whoa, what the hell was that? Scott Lang. He retrieves Steve's shield. I believe this is yours, Captain America. Tony Stark. Oh, great. Deku. Wait, please, don't do this. But it's too late. The battle ignites. Everything happens the same. Just Rhodes is saved by Deku when he went free falling. Remote icy mountain base. The turning point. Tony and Deku walk into the underground bunker after watching the footage of Bucky murdering the Starks. The air is heavy. Steve tries to stop Tony, but he's already moving forward, hurt and furious. Tony Stark. Quietly, seething. You knew. Steve Rogers. Guilt in his voice. I didn't know it was him, not at first. Tony Stark. Don't bullshit me, Rogers. Did you know? Steve Rogers. Softly. Yes. Tony's breath hitches. He looks away, eyes burning. The silence is louder than a scream. Without warning, he lunges at Bucky. Deku flashes forward, intercepting the first blow. But this time, the fury is real and overwhelming. A tense, emotional fight erupts. Tony and Deku versus Steve and Bucky. It's brutal, fast, and deeply personal. In the end, Tony and Deku stand victorious, but no one feels like a winner. After the fight, Tony breathes heavily, his helmet retracted, blood at the corner of his mouth. Deku stands beside him, torn between both sides. Tony Stark. To Steve, quietly, that shield doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. Steve looks down at the battered, Vibranium shield, the symbol of his legacy, of a world that feels long gone. Tony Stark. My father made that shield. He trusted you with it. And you kept this from me. Steve looks Tony in the eye. No anger, just regret. Steve Rogers. You're right. He doesn't argue, doesn't try to justify anything. He slowly kneels and places the shield on the ground, reverently. Not discarded, but surrendered. Steve turns without a word and walks away, supporting Bucky as they exit the chamber, defeated and broken. Transition. Quiet aftermath. Deku walks over, kneels, and gently picks up the shield, looking at it with reverence. It's scratched, but still gleaming with the weight of legacy. Tony Stark. Softly, maybe now it can mean something new. Deku looks to him, then nods. He straps the shield to his back. Final scene. Outside the bunker. Tony watches as Steve and Bucky disappear into the snowy horizon. He then turns to the surviving Avengers, Rhodey, Vision, all waiting near the Quinjet. Tony Stark. The Accords, we're done with them. Rhodey. We figured. Vision. So what now? Tony Stark. Now, we figure out what it means to be Avengers again. On our own terms. He turns to Deku, who now holds the shield like it was always meant to be his. Tony Stark. You're not a replacement. You're the future. Deku. Softly, I won't let you down. Epilogue. Avengers compound disbanded. Tony and Deku stand in the silence of the once bustling HQ. Rooms are empty, lights dim. Tony Stark. You know, I used to think the shield was just a symbol, a weapon, but I was wrong. Deku. It's a responsibility. Tony Stark. Exactly. You're not carrying his legacy, kid. You're carrying your own. They stand together, looking toward what comes next. No government, no accords, just heroes trying to do what's right. Scene. Doctor Strange 2016, The Multiverse Mind Expansion. Location. Kamar Taj. Context. The Ancient One has just touched Steven's forehead, sending his consciousness hurtling through the multiverse. The Ancient One. You think you know how the world works. She places her hand on Strange's forehead. The Ancient One, VO. What if I told you, he was never from here, but always meant to be? Clapperboard. Stephen Strange spirals through the multiverse. A cascade of realities spins past him. Kaleidoscopic stars, dimensional layers, and foreign energies crash and fold. Milky Way flash. Earth 199999. The Avenger called Deku. A vivid image burns into Stephen's mind. A young man in green armor hovers beside Tony Stark and Thor, one for all coursing visibly through his veins like glowing circuitry. A warm, determined smile on his face, Deku shouts over the wind on top of a ruined helicarrier. Deku, cheerfully. We've got this, Mr. Stark. I'm not giving up now. Tony gives a brief laugh through his HUD. Iron Man. Not bad for the intern. The camera lingers. This is no accident. This is Deku. The one who shouldn't be here, but has to be. A spark flickers at his back, the embers of another universe clinging to him like fate. Cyclone flash, the mirror of what could be. Strange now sees thousands of universes. In one, Deku never arrived, and the Battle of New York consumes the planet. In another, Ultron defeats the Avengers, and there is no green-clad hero to help them rebuild. But in this one, the one Steven is returning to, Deku stands with the Avengers. And the multiverse bends around that choice. The Ancient One, VO. You were never alone. The universe has plans bigger than any of us. Milky Way final image before Strange snaps back. Steven sees himself standing face to face with Deku, sometime in the future. Deku smiles, older, battle-worn, but vibrant as ever. Behind him, the shattered sky of another multiversal war swirls. Deku calmly, knowingly. I'm supposed to be here, aren't I? Then the vision collapses. Strange snaps back, gasping, on the floor of Kamar Taj. His eyes wide, he whispers. Dr. Strange. Who was that? Scene. T'Challa visits Deku before returning to Wakanda. Setting. The rebuilt cliffside estate from Iron Man 3, now Deku's personal lab and workshop, a gift from Tony. It's full of tech, battle-scarred training dummies, all-might memorabilia, and advanced gear. Deku is welding something glowing with green lightning when a ship hums quietly into view. Ext. Deku's lab. Cliffside. Day. A Wakandan royal Talon fighter hovers briefly before descending. The landing platform folds open. Out steps T'Challa in his royal robes, accompanied by 2 Dora Milaje. Deku, from inside, surprised. Whoa, T'Challa. T'Challa walking up calmly, soft smile. Still shocking your lab equipment, I see. Deku grinning, wiping his gloves. It builds resistance, and I like the sparks. T'Challa surveys the lab. Tony's old legacy, now full of Midoriya's tech sketches and personal touches. A worn All Might figurine sits next to a hollow projection of the Iron Man suit. T'Challa. Stark left his mark on the world. But it's clear this place is yours now. Deku, a little bashful. I try to live up to it. I don't think I ever can, though. T'Challa, serious but kind. Tony Stark changed the world. But you, Izuku Midoriya, you change people. That is the rarer gift. Black Heart the invitation. T'Challa steps forward, more personally now, a faint smile crossing his face. T'Challa. I came because I am returning home. Wakanda prepares for something personal. Deku. Something bad. T'Challa. Something important. A challenge to what kind of king I will be. And I would like you to see it. Deku, surprised. You want me to come with you? T'Challa nods. As my guest. Not as a warrior or avenger. But as someone I trust. Deku's eyes widen in disbelief. He instinctively tenses up. The weight of being invited to Wakanda, especially by the king himself, isn't lost on him. Deku. I'd be honored. Really. T'Challa, with a faint grin. Good. I will have Shuri prepare a guest room. Try not to electrify the palace. To be continued. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and now we will see you in the next video.